Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Yo, sophomore class, what are you doing with the ball right now? What, you two, 4 turnovers between the two of you. Wait for the flash on the switch.
Yes, he did. Here comes Ross. Clear for takeoff, Jaden Ross.
Mitchell. It's a triple-double for the 3rd time in Marquette history. The first one since Dwayne Wade in the 03 NCAA tournament.
Given the pressure, then you need to go do something else. And I would have the opportunity to go do something else. And I'm sitting here trying to help Nebraska win. I know it's on everybody's mind. I know I get it. It's shocking to me that it's been that long since a program like this hasn't been to a bowl game. It doesn't make any sense to me, but it is where we're at. And we tried everything we could to win that game last week, and we had a chance still. And we're going to try everything that we can to win this game this week, and we'll have a chance to.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at the Pillar Exterior Stage. What's up, DB?
What is going down?
Oh, there's a lot going down, apparently. Lots of things. All the things.
Is it?
It's a busy sports time of year.
It is. Is it because you're interested in NBA floors?
I actually kind of like some of the floors.
Is it because you're interested in Maction?
Not Maction as much. Real dialed in on college basketball.
Is it because you love the way that Nebraska women's basketball played last night?
I did love a lot of it.
You did not love. Stop using love like you love.
I did not love the Potts
Potts
injury.
Yeah.
That was rough.
Yeah.
We had some people in the building that were like, that was hard to be around for.
Yep.
So shouts out, hearts out, go to Natalie. Hope that thing gets.
Yeah, she was sitting behind the bench last night in crutches.
Yeah.
And no bueno.
Yeah, I heard it was kind of one of those like in the building that was like, oh God.
Yeah, did you see how she took it?
Yeah.
Yeah, just her being her, unselfish.
100%.
So that's a little bit of a Denny Downer.
Which we don't have an official diagnosis yet. I have to say.
I'm not going to play anything on radio.
It just didn't seem seem great, obviously, at the time.
Is it because so we went through?
Well, I mean, I got my hat handed to me on Marquette Purdue.
Okay, but wait though. So I'm in the shower this morning. This is totally how I think because I'm ultra competitive.
Okay.
So I love the bet on it segment, and sometimes we just kind of just generally cap,
mm-hmm.
like but like. I think, and you guys can correct me, like I'm more than willing to be wrong. I think on my definitives, and this is including the double play that I gave on hockey,
mm-hmm.
I think I'm 5-2. I don't do it a ton.
On the ones where you're like, hey, this is happening?
Like where I would play. I think I'm 5-2.
You're I don't know the number. I haven't been keeping track, but I do know when you're adamant about something, you don't miss very often.
Yeah. That was like, and my man TK, it was early. It was in the 5s, I think.
Yeah.
So he may be going to the gym. I don't know. Dude was like, hey, thanks for the free money. And I forgot what he was talking about. This is super authentic, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you when I'm mad wrong. I didn't know what he was talking about. So I was like, you're welcome. I forgot. I totally forgot. I had no idea what he's talking about.
I would have just been like, bro, what? I'm sorry.
No. See, first of all, don't do it to me this early. I'm over, bro.
Bruh.
We had to talk in the bathtub today.
Did you?
Yes.
Be like, hey, Zoe, it's not.
So I'm not, okay, I'm going to just give the quick version.
Okay.
So it gets her hair whipped up in a bun. And the minute she hears she's got it down to a science. The minute she hears the water go from shower
mm-hmm.
to bath, so I have to like get dressed relatively in like a hurry.
Yeah.
Because if she has, heaven forbid, she has to wait more than 30 seconds.
Oh gosh, that couldn't work at all.
Hey, so between me, you, and the fence post, this is what I do. This is great. So I leave the shower on shower.
Until you're like dressed.
I get out. I dry, keep my towel on, and put my shirt on. And then I go to tub. And so she comes in and she's got me thinking, that was fast. No, I'm on to you.
You're like,
Zozo.
I got you.
I'm on to you. And so we do this thing where she like has this sponge and we have like 34 sponges.
Okay.
And we have a lot of unnecessary stuff. It's like CVS in one corner, it's Walgreens in the other, it's Mary Kay in another. Drives me up the absolute flipping wall. So everything is like sectioned off. So we have this sponge and we play this game. I take it off the shower rack and she's sitting in the tub and I put bubbles in her bath and stuff. And I act like there's like this atom bomb and I'm like, target has been locked and loaded. And she's sitting down and she tries to catch it as I drop the sponge above her head. And she goes, and today I kind of ad-libbed a little bit. I was like, hey, the sea monster has been spotted. Like I never tell her what we're dropping the bomb on. But this morning I said the sea monster thing. So she catches it about 4 out of every 5 times. Okay. But she doesn't like, it drives me crazy, but I'm not trying to coach her yet. So she puts her hands above her head to catch it like close. And I just want her to like,
Just catch it down here.
yeah, give
Little
yourself,
punt return.
give yourself some room, like cushion it, right? But it's like, no, don't do that. And so she caught it and she goes, bro, sea monster alive. I'm like, Zoe, we have to talk about
You gotta
this.
chill with the bro.
I am not your bro. I am your dad. And she said, but you're a boy. And of course, my skin curdled. But then I remembered she's only 6. She knows nothing. She knows nothing. So I'm like on a knee, wet kneecap. And I'm like telling her why you can't call your dad bro. It is incredible. It's 6:38, and I'm like, I'm leaving.
It's too early for this.
I'm out.
It's too early for
But
all
the other
this.
day, she's flipping doing cartwheels. But I was like, but I was in the zone because I had called Caleb earlier because I wanted to go over a couple of things that we're trying to do defensively for Millard Sound. Which, by the way, concept-wise, it's a lot going on.
Yeah.
No.
Keeping you up at night?
I'll go through it here over break and stuff. But so I'm like, hey, this, and this. And this dude looked at me and he goes, hey, if you do this, don't let him run around and make plays. I don't need to be seeing that. I'm like,
who are you talking to?
That's what I said. That's exactly what I said. I said, man, who are you talking to? He goes, well, I'm still added on huddle. This guy just makes plays, buying time outside the pocket.
Yep.
I was like, hey, genius. So then I flipped. I was like, hey, genius, you want to come help put the game plan together? He's like, I'm just saying, try this, and this. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I was like, hey, how you feeling? And this ding-dong had nerve enough to say, first time ever, Ravi, he said, are you my dad or are you media? Is that funny? Hey.
That was funny.
Is that funny?
A little bit.
No, is that funny? You're laughing too?
Yeah. I think
Hey, full disclosure, for you, I was pissed.
I bet you weren't thrilled.
I pulled the list. I'll do the reenactment. What? What? Who are we talking to, man? I can hear Donovan laughing in the background. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm just asking. I said, hey, man, how's the mood? You good? I said, hey, how's the vibe? Is it different? Well, for the media, yes. But here around us, no. I said, man, you got about 60 seconds to snap out of it. That's why I don't call him. Punk ass.
Stays on it.
Man, I'm steaming. That's why I'm sitting in the car out there and Shane's probably like, what is this dude doing? Trying not to choke my son.
This is a good thing it's a phone call. You know, you got
Oh man,
got a
so
little distance
that's
there.
the story of my life, man. That's how your boy's morning went.
That's quite the start.
I'm glad I could keep you entertained. Are
do.
you not entertained?
No, I am. I'm very entertained.
My family's a trip.
They are. They
Are you not entertained?
They keep you on your toes.
Man. Shoot.
I understand why you're mad. Like I do.
Hey.
But it's as an outsider, it's funny that he said it.
Yeah, because he's got it in him, but he barely talks, so it doesn't come out a ton.
That's part of why it's funny.
Yeah.
Because like you kind of get the sense it's like, oh, this dude's funnier, like kind of like slicker than
you want the walk off?
He lets off.
You want the walk off?
Yeah.
So we have the Monday night game.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, like sometimes they're not supposed to be able to watch you, but the players almost always come out.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches sometimes will be in
around
various spots, right? Yeah. And he's like, hey, I'm just telling you, this is a lot more mental than it is physical. Just don't embarrass your boy.
You know, it is interesting that he says that.
You know what's interesting?
What's that?
And he'll tell you, like, you can talk to him whenever, but he'll tell you it's the first time I hung up on him, maybe in our father-son career. Hey man, gotta go to work.
When's the first thing you think Dion hung up on Shedeur? How long ago?
I don't know, but do you remember the specials they used to have? Probably early.
Yeah.
Do you remember when he used to do reality TV?
Yeah.
And Shedeur was bad.
Yeah.
You be you.
But it wasn't his fault because they were going through the divorce.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, you know, Daddy loves you. And Shedeur was looking at him like, man, you better get your act together. Get your head off your shoulders.
Quit doing reality TV, man.
No, seriously.
No.
It's hard to believe that these are the guys that we see.
Go get a real job.
Out here balling at Colorado.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I had to hit click.
I'm trying to think. How young do you think it was when Greg hung up on Doug for the first time?
College.
Because Doug kind of like I could
College.
get a little Doug vibe from Caleb.
College.
Like pretty low key, but probably a little snarkier than you realize.
Super funny. But,
yeah. But like pretty, you wouldn't know it. Like real low key about everything.
Have a good day.
Hey, I gotta go.
Yeah, I don't even know what he said. He might have said, you too, love you. I don't know what he said. I just heard dial tone.
He probably said, bro.
It's like that. I'm just saying, it's a little funny that he brings up the it's more mental than physical thing. I think that might apply to more than one situation.
Oh, that was one of you talking about yesterday?
No, I'm talking about Caleb.
Oh, you talking with us or Wisconsin or in general?
Well, so he says it to you about you guys, but it's funny he brings that up.
Oh yeah, because that's what he feels. That's the message for them too.
I would say that's the same thing I would say about their situation.
I got you. Yeah, it is.
I mean, because it's funny, you know, not on his side of the ball, obviously. But we hear Holgorsen talk yesterday. You know what my favorite part of that press conference was?
Don't tell me.
You could probably figure it out based on my personality.
There were so many little gems.
There's like Dana is a little bit my vibe in the way he talks to people.
Okay, do you know why?
Why?
I've been building up to this because I didn't know I had no idea about Holgorsen.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea about like how he was going to do yesterday.
Yeah.
But I have been saying Rule needs a heavy.
Yeah, he needs somebody kind of opposite his personality.
He needs somebody opposite his personality, right? Like
we thought it might have been Donnie. But like he needs a guy.
I've been saying this forever
balance him out.
as he's kind of morphed into this CEO role.
Mm-hmm. He needs a bad cop. He needs a bad cop.
I'm telling you, sure as I'm sitting here,
mm-hmm.
Coach Holgorsen is Matt Rule's alter ego.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to this and I'm texting back and forth with the mayor because he's like all over it. Like, dude is very for as much as he doesn't like psychoanalyzing,
mm-hmm.
he's a psychoanalyzer.
Yeah.
Like so
it's super ironic because
we're going back, but because he has this ability to be pragmatic too, right? Just bottom line that thing. So, you know, I'm talking and I'm like, fudge. You know what I feel like this is? I got done listening to him and I felt like it was the two boys.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb's me 81.4% of the time.
Yep.
Mike gives me 18.6. But what do I always tell you about Micah? He's literally my alter ego.
Yeah.
Like Micah says the things that I want to say.
Yeah, that you think but have a filter.
But I just can't go around saying it.
You know what it kind of reminded me of, actually? You remember, this is a while ago now, but did you ever watch Key and Peele?
Nah.
So,
I'm not really vibing with them guys.
That's fine. But they did a sketch called Obama's Anger Translator. So, like, Obama would say, like, the one guy would do the bald one. I can't remember which one's which. Would do his Obama impression.
They look alike, or?
No, I just can't remember which name. Because it's just Key and Peele. I don't know which one's Key. I don't know which one's Peele.
Yeah.
But you got the bald one.
If it was Leroy and Tyrone, you'd feel better.
No, I just don't know their names. You got the bald one doing his Obama impersonation.
Yeah, I woke up feeling some type of way this morning.
And
I blame the kids.
And then you've got the one that's got the hair coming out and yelling and being like this, and acting like that's what he really means. I feel like Dana Holgorsen is Matt Rule's anger translator.
It was great.
So can you figure out which was my favorite part?
I'm gonna go with the whole the competitive line.
So that's my favorite part as like a coach, as like a snarky person who talks on the radio. My favorite part was when he goes and he's like talking to the wide receiver room, and he goes, "You guys are pretty big. Why are you so bad at perimeter blocking?"
Yeah,
that's embarrassing.
Do it.
So he said it, and
that's almost verbatim. Like, I'm not exaggerating.
Full disclosure, I dragged the cursor back to hear it again.
Yeah.
I was like,
what did you say?
He said 4, 16,
29,
18, 29. Like, these are some big guys. Like,
why are you so bad at this? That's embarrassing.
I was like,
dude, I was dying. I was like,
he's like 17. He ain't a big guy,
but he's pretty tough, though.
He's tough. I was like, oh, shoot.
What did I tweet during the game on Saturday? Ja'Cory Barney might be the toughest guy on that team.
Maybe.
Might be.
He's in the top 5 or 6.
That dude doesn't give a what.
You know who he's like?
Who?
His counterpart. He's just like Jalen.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that kind of guy.
Jalen is tough as poop.
Yeah.
And I know this because
you've seen it.
Yeah.
You're up close.
And they're both little.
Yes. That was my favorite part, though.
I mean, Jalen had to lobby to stay at 175.
Instead of getting bulked up more?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, man,
no,
I feel better. Trust me.
I'm good here.
I will still be tough at this weight.
Yeah. I mean, what's Ja'Cory? Maybe 170? He's listed at 170?
I don't know.
Soaking wet?
They lie about his height, though.
He's 170 with pads on?
The part they tie up.
But that killed me. That line, I was like, oh, I like this guy.
So
because they need a little bit of that.
Well, you know my favorite line.
The competitive one.
It was the competitive one. That's the one I tweeted.
We need competition. The more competition you have, the better. When you have competition, guys play better. When you don't have competition, I don't remember if he said comfortable or lazy, but essentially the same thing, right?
And my favorite...
Guys, relax. He said, guys, relax.
My favorite, and I think I try not to go back and read my tweets because sometimes I'm emotional. I wouldn't say I'm emotionally tweeting, but I just say it in the moment and I can't really remember like what I said.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I black out, but one of the things that was really important to me that I felt like we should know is it's the perfect timing for this. He's got no skin in the game. He's new, he's fresh, he's super objective. Like, he could say what he wants to say.
Yeah.
And it's fine because
there's really no stakes for him.
0.
Yeah.
Right? But you know who you don't want saying that?
Who?
Your head coach in week 11.
Yeah.
It's just too finite.
Mm-hmm. And
it would elicit panic.
Yes.
If Coach
we wouldn't
Rule,
be able to handle
if
that.
Coach Rule came out and said, even though I bet you if we were sitting out here in this parking lot having a ginger ale, Coach Rule would have said the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And people would have been like, well, you're the head coach. How did it get this far? Because you don't understand how
like team dynamics and
how that stuff works.
How season builds.
Yeah, especially as the CEO.
Yeah.
Because you want to hear this again? Head coaches, coach coordinators, coach position coaches, coach players.
So you know what I heard a lot yesterday was, well, why did Garrett McGuire let it get to this point? And that's why the no stakes in the game matters for Holgorsen, right? Because Garrett McGuire does have stakes. Not only the stakes that he's got in the relationships he's built in that room, But you have to remember where these two people are at in their careers. You should not be shocked that a 53-year-old who's been a head coach for 14 years is more willing to say things than a 26-year-old who is just starting his coaching career, who is trying to get things going.
Yeah.
Those two guys are going to have a very different take on a situation, right? Garrett McGuire probably also understands. Like, Daniel Holgorsen doesn't care if he pisses off boosters who are paying an NIL bill, right? Daniel Holgorsen's not going to care about that. You know who might care about that because Garrett McGuire is going to have to deal with those boosters next year is Garrett McGuire, right? Because he's trying to recruit more guys that he is going to want NIL dollars for. Yeah. And they're going to go, well, I gave you NIL dollars for these two guys. How come they didn't play?
And what it does, this is like super it's important, but it's not on the surface. What Coach Holgorsen said yesterday about a multitude of things, because the competition thing wasn't my favorite part.
No, it was.
Now I'm gonna get to it.
Okay.
It lets everybody either. So you were in one of two camps yesterday. You either felt the heat turned up, or you felt encouraged, and I mean from parents to coaches to players. You were in one of two distinct camps yesterday after listening to Coach Holgorsen. If you're on the offensive side, you either felt validated or vindicated. There is no more gray. So we don't have to say things like, oh, I'll be more than happy to talk to parents, but when I turn on the film, you better play.
Yeah.
He's been telling you.
Yeah, he's just not going to do it in the same way that Dana Holgorsen just did.
100%. That's why I say that he's his alter ego. And so the people that have, so for the Dennises and there's lots. There's probably
a ton of them.
I'd say hundreds.
Yeah.
That I know of.
Yeah.
Which is a lot in a small circle.
Yeah, in a little sphere. Yeah.
Because sometimes we think 20 is a lot. It's like,
and it can be depending on what.
There's 50 other thousand people on this account,
right?
So that's not a ton. But you start getting into the hundreds, it's more because whatever. But you feel validated. Well, I've been saying it. I don't know why they keep peeing on my shoes and telling me it's raining.
Yeah,
like because that's or it's the whole. Oh my God, I've seen this coming for 2 months. I want to be right. And I'm like, guess what? Your head coach is not afforded that luxury. Like, he can't come out and say that. Why? Because when you're running an operation, you still have to keep it running. So what you do is you do things in the meantime to get it right.
Yeah.
The other thing is now that it's out in the open, everybody feels like, at least for yesterday, you got your pound of flesh.
Yeah.
So you can just be quiet for a while and watch it play out. Because it's like we said all along, he'll do whatever it takes to get it right. And I'm certain of it.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
I thought we ran block well on Saturday. They say it's the O-line's best game up front. I thought we played well up front. I can't gauge it on what happened in the first 9 games, but I was pleasantly surprised with our pad level, our toughness. Assignment wise being good. I thought we had, a couple of runs that were good, tough runs that got good, tough yards. But, I know Coach Rule mentioned it yesterday. There's a lot of yards left out there. When I can push the back and there's a hole like this, and the back's not in it, it's discouraging, and so just got to get those guys to open their eyes and trust the blocks and hit it. I thought at halftime I told the running back coach, I was like, they need to hit that thing better because there are some holes there. It is what it is. You get it up to the second level. We need to get some backs that can make some guys miss in open field. Some of those tackles that USC had are hard tackles, and they made them. So. I was pleased with the scheme. I was pleased with what it looked like. We have to get more production. We do have to.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Do you think Dana asked or said it that way because he didn't know EJ Barthel's name, or that he was just saying it that way?
No, that's just how he is.
Okay. Because I think he was doing numbers because he may not have all the players' names yet,
That's
which is
true.
totally understandable.
Yeah, man.
I'm not hating on
if
him.
we're in that minutia.
No, I think it's funny.
Hey, so
Because he goes, hey, I told the running backs coach, gotta hit them holes.
do you like to know my weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you this story. It's quick.
Okay.
And I know I've never told this story to anyone except Coach Solich.
Okay.
So remember I was telling you about the whole Arizona State game?
Mhm.
Because like my behavior, my personality traits all stem from something, right?
Sure.
Whether it's trauma or love or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, the whole not jumping in the air, it's because I can hear Zadiska in my voice against UCLA. Okay, so quick reset to what he said. And when he said this, my bedroom is like 51 degrees. Okay, no curtains open, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
When he said this, I walked from downstairs. I was on the treadmill. I went in my room. I laid down for like 3 minutes. I put my hands on my chest. Man, listen, if I'm lying, I'm dying. I put my hands on my chest. I said, man, damn. I remember those days. All right. We got practice later on. You got to use this to motivate yourself to attack the day. Don't let that get you in your feels. Why did I say that? And I got up and I walked my little happy butt downstairs, and I had no time, man. I was stressed, man. People want to put up Christmas lights. I ain't at home. The oil's leaking, whatever, man. So I go back downstairs. I'm like, I knocked the rest of this workout out. And I say that to say we're playing Arizona State. If you look at the stats, I by far and away, I won't say by far and away, but had one of the better rushing days, one of the better offensive players in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All I can remember now, we're mad now. We're watching film and we're just getting cut up. Talking about courage and hitting holes and fumbling the ball, and not because we put the ball on the carpet, man. And I had it was a reverse. It was like a 20 some odd yard run. And I made a move on air. Okay. Don't know why.
Yeah.
Just
did it.
Just in the open. And I made a move on air about 4 yards in front of the defender.
Mm-hmm.
And this is after about a 20-yard game. I don't like to watch this game, but go roll the tape. I got a one-on-one defender in the open field in front of their bench, and I'm three-step cutting, and the dude is still like four yards from me.
Mm-hmm.
This dude brings me down to the ground. Okay. Real time, I'm not even lying. I'm like, yeah, man, keep feeding me the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Man, my coach, he played that play 50 times in team. 50. You got back. I'm so mad, Ravi.
Yeah.
You got backs coughing up the ball. They won't take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Guys taking safeties. This dude played this play over and over and over again in team meetings. Can't let guys get to your legs. We had so few big play opportunities. You can't leave it on the field. He gave the overhead view, and he's like, there's another 40 yards of daylight.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see daylight? And he was like on me. And in my head, all I could think of was, it was the longest goddamn run of the night, coach.
Yeah.
And you're on me about that? And I was traumatized because like a little baby, like a 5-year-old little baby that put their thumb in their mouth, I pouted the whole rest of that meeting. I said, you know what? That's fine. I know I got a cracked rib. We're playing Colorado State the next week. Put a flak jacket on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing, right? We can get D'Angelo ready and this, that. No, man, I'm playing.
Yeah.
I think we both went over for 100 yards for that game. But I'll never forget him saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Over and over and over again. This little DB got to my leg. Listen, my man looked like Gable Stevenson on a double leg in the open field.
He got cracked on a run play.
And so every time I see that happen to running backs,
mm-hmm.
it does something to my feelings.
You get a little trauma.
So when he said yesterday about I mean, we had 20-yard gains. I mean, it should be 80. And you get a guy going. And I know what he was saying when he said, oh, some of those tackles were tough. But you can't let him make those guys. The first part that I left out because I had to tell the story in backwards order before I went and sat in the dark for 3 minutes to pep myself back up. I ran around the house fist pumping. I was like, yeah! I'm by myself. That's your boy.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of the press conference.
Okay, I like it.
That was my favorite part of it because sometimes you just have to say what it is.
You got to say it out loud.
You just have to say what it is.
So,
it's going to hurt.
You know, the vibes I got yesterday was, so I always.
Do you think I'm nuts?
A little, but not because of that.
That's exactly what I did.
Like, that doesn't seem like an off-brand DB story. Like, you tell me that story, and I go, yeah, that checks out. Everything about that checks.
There's just some things I don't forget. Go back and watch the run. It's embarrassing. I'm making a move from me to that door.
So there's two things there, right? There's two things there that I think are important. Number one, I think the reason that we resonate so much with Dana is the same reason I tell people to go to therapy. Is they are paying him because he's not close enough to the situation to care enough to lie.
Nope.
Right? I tell that to people all the time. I was like, "It's
hey,
not,
why'd you consider the job?" I was bored.
I like.
Yeah, joking. But really.
No, not really. He was bored. I tell people all the time, you don't pay the therapist because they're smarter than you. You pay the therapist because they're not close enough to you to lie. Right? That doesn't mean your friends are bad friends. That doesn't mean the coaches are bad coaches. They just have too much invested.
Yeah.
They have too many stakes in the game. How many people that genuinely love you that don't tell you the whole truth because they're afraid of how you'll react? Right? That is a very common thing.
Yeah.
Dana Holgorsen is the therapist. He's the guy you pay because he doesn't care enough to lie to you. That's important. The second thing is, and you know why they were mad at you and not at all the other running backs? Opportunity cost.
I know. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, 100.
Because
and you don't know that real time, right? You feel like
I played better than anybody else. Why you out to get me?
You feel like everybody's picking on you.
Why you out to get me?
Yeah,
I played better than everybody.
I'm telling you, man, I could be petty with the best of them.
But it's the opportunity cost because I bet if you had gone back and listen, doesn't mean it's okay to fumble the football, right?
Yeah.
But if you had gone back to all those plays where either they fumbled or had bad gains or whatever, you look at it and you go, they had that covered, so it's a 3-yard loss instead of a 1-yard gain.
Yeah.
But the opportunity cost there isn't that big. Like, you got to be more disciplined, hold on to the football, but the opportunity that we lost there wasn't that big.
Yeah, because you know the moral of the story?
What's that?
I felt like I cost us an opportunity
to get back
to
in the
change
game.
momentum. Yeah.
100%.
You know, that like
100%.
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
that's what I'm really bothered by. Did I cost my guys? Dang, I think I did.
Because that's the dirty little secret about when people call us out on stuff and we get mad, is usually the reason we're mad is because there's something that we already believe to be true.
Oh, yeah.
Buried in what they said.
So you know what's funny? That's why no matter how critical people are of what I think or what I say, I always ask myself, is there any truth to what they're saying?
Are they mad at me?
Because that's that's how I've been raised or grew or coached or whatever.
Usually true.
Yeah.
Coming up next.
You didn't have to do all that. Like you could have just clicked the thing like 5 or 6 times.
Didn't have to do the whole 50?
No, man. We talked about that like 20 years later.
Coming up next, we're going to start our high school state championship previews with Dave Stoddard of the Stanton Mustangs and Andrew Kuta from Sandy Creek. That's coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, wrapping up hour number one. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now by Dave Stoddard. He's the head football coach for the Stanton Mustangs, playing in the state championship coming up here against Sandy Creek. Coach, how are you this morning?
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, now, Coach, come on now. This isn't the funny guy that I was with this summer, man. It must be game time. How you feeling?
We're feeling pretty good. We're preparing. The preparation's going well. We just told the kids to be confident through that process still and just do what we do each day. It's going well.
Coach, as you I know the season's not over. You got one more left, but as you kind of look back on where you've come from the start of the season until now, what is the thing you've been most proud of in terms of how your team's gotten better throughout the season?
It's just the day-to-day. That's kind of our goal. We want to win each day, and that starts in the classroom, weight room, and then at practice. And they've been, focused throughout the season. We had a really tough non-district schedule, and then get into the district. We had one of the tougher districts in the state, and then just a challenge, through each round of the playoffs. So just really credit the kids for staying focused and determined.
Coach, it's interesting because in a similar vein, and I kind of talked about this at the event this summer, you had the chore of, everybody thought this was where you'd be. You still have to go through the process of the day-to-day. How much of that how much of your focus has to do with, it seems like everybody in that building is on the same page.
Yeah, that's that's is what we're, what our foundation is. Winning each day. We couldn't think of, yes, it was our goal to get to Lincoln, but you can't think that far ahead. We had to focus on each team each week, and the kids have really bought into that, and they've had a lot of success. Our seniors over the last 4 years, and they've just done things the right way. So it really puts you in an opportunity to have success. But like I said, each week was such a challenge. We've seen so many different teams and so many talented players and great coaching that you really have to stay focused on the day-to-day.
Coach, obviously you got a tough one coming up here on Monday to try and finish this thing out. What are some of the challenges that you face with Sandy Creek?
Well, first of all, they're very well coached. Coach Kuta and staff do an awesome job. Offensively, they can attack you in so many different ways. They're multiple formation, multiple scheme, whether it's gap scheme, power scheme, very multiple passing game that's going to attack all levels of your defense and play action as well. And then defensively, they're going to give you different looks. They have big physical lines up front on offense and defense, physical linebackers at the second level. And they've got a rotation of skill players, that they use very well. So it's a very well-coached, talented football team.
Coach, I just remember some of the side conversations. We're talking about 3 front and, whether we want to set the edge. And we're just going back. I'm talking 11, man. You're talking 8, and we're just
right.
we're doing football things. How much of that, because you seem to just love ball, right? These new, and I would call you guys innovative, right? That was kind of one of the things that drew me to you during the broadcast last year was very, very creative. How much of that has to do with just you're kind of a football junkie?
Yeah, you really enjoy the X's and O's and the concept and the scheme, and a lot of that depends each week on what the defense is giving us, how they're playing, different gaps or what their reads are. So we try to have an answer for everything. And just I don't have a ton of hobbies. I think I watch film and watch football on the weekends. I got to pick up something else, but just really enjoy the X's and O's game planning. And also, being around the players is great.
2 full-time hobbies. Number 1, you got to keep your brother in line. And number 2, much like our producer over here, he's a Raiders fan. Are you going to be okay?
Keeping my, being first of all the Raider fan, being a part of the greatest sports organization. It's a great sign of intelligence there. And they're going to be back up, and my brother announced this year, so I had to kind of talk to him to not be making announcements during timeouts and stuff, so I could visit with the team. It was always a weather report or something. I think he mentioned the score of a soccer friendly during the game. So we've got to keep the box focused up there too.
Coach, we're looking forward to it, man. Give everybody my best, and hopefully I can see you out here this summer. Just save me some of that meat.
Absolutely. I truly appreciate it, and good luck to you as well Monday too.
I appreciate it, Coach.
That is Dave Stoddard, head coach of the Stanton Mustangs. I was going to give him a compliment, say, I like these high schools with the Mustangs as the mascot, but then he went on that nonsense about the Raiders, so just let it slide on out.
Yeah,
I would just I was vibing him a little bit, and then I'm like, well, I really don't trust his judgment if he thinks that the Raiders are the greatest organization in the history of sports, because I don't know what measure he'd been using that. I mean, maybe black eyeliner. Maybe they're the greatest at consuming black makeup in the history of the sport. I don't know.
Yeah. We need to have him on more.
He's a funny guy. It's going to be a classic matchup. This is 2 juggernauts.
They will be taking on Sandy Creek, who is coached by Andrew Kuta, who joins us now on the Hurrdat Hotline. Coach, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Good, Coach. Been looking forward to this one. It's been kind of penciled in as the collision course. You guys are looking forward to it after last year. How have you been able to keep your team dialed in, just taking it one at a time until you got the opportunity?
That's really been our mindset all year, is that we have a team goal that we're just going to go 1-0 each week, and that's our focus. And we really expand on that, and we talk about just taking it one day at a time and just focusing on us. I think with a lot of groups that would be really challenging to do, to get them to just focus on the process and focus on the task at hand and just focus on what we need to be doing each and every day. Really fortunately for us, I think we have a group of senior leadership that made that possible for us this year, that they really did show up every day and just focus on the things that we need to do to be successful. And I give our senior class a lot of credit for that.
Coach, you haven't played a ton of close ball games this year, and obviously, you want to play your best, and the score ends up being what it is. But is there any part of you that's trying to help prepare these guys for what might be a closer matchup against Stanton?
We've been really fortunate this year to play some really good teams. We played some really quality teams. I think off the top of my head, I think 5 out of our 8 regular season games were against playoff teams. A 6th one would have been a playoff team, but they weren't eligible in 8-man. But we've just been fortunate to play really well in those games and to execute at a pretty high level. Not make a lot of mistakes, take care of the football. So we have played some really quality opponents. You are right. Most of them haven't finished with a score that was overly close. I think we've benefited a lot this year from having really competitive practices. We're really fortunate in the sense that I think a lot of our backups are really quality players, guys that have a bright future for us, guys that are good football players. That just unfortunately for them, they're stuck behind some seniors that are also pretty good. So we have had some really competitive practices. We do a lot of situational work in practice where we're putting them in stressful situations, where we're, defensive situations, it's 3rd and 2, it's 4th and 1. Offensively, there's a minute left on the clock and we got to go 60 yards with 1 timeout. So we try to replicate those things, but there's really no replication for an actual game. I do feel like with the group that we have, with the games that we've had in the past, we returned almost all of our starters from last year.
Yeah.
So even though it hasn't been that way this year, they've been there and they've been a part of it.
Coach, one of the interesting things, and I get it when you got guys like Connor and Ethan, you rest a little easier, but we do NEB preps every week and we kind of highlight the classes, so we pay attention all year. And I drive through Shelby Rising City on my way out to Central City, and that score a couple weeks ago kind of got my attention because it was a little bit of a grinder earlier in the season. You guys sent a clear message that, hey, this could potentially be a team of destiny. Was that the game? Did that outcome surprise you as you got ready to ramp up for the playoffs, that game went the way that it did, considering how it was played the first time?
It did a little bit. That was one of those games. We have a ton of respect for Shelby Rising City. We think they're really well coached. They are very physical. They're big. They play hard-nosed football. And they're a really good team. And I had them, in or around the top 5 the whole season, and I don't think that's going to change in my mind. That was just one of those games where everything kind of went right for us. That was the night that it was raining down here a lot. The field was really wet. And we ended with a lot of breaks that they didn't. The ball kind of bounced our way. We were able to force a few turnovers. We took care of the football and didn't have any turnovers. If you'd have told me before the game that it was going to be 46-0 at half, I wouldn't have believed you. But it was just one of those games where everything kind of went our way and really nothing went theirs.
I know you like to control doing what you can do, but these are two pretty creative minds that are going to go head to head. You like the fact that you guys can be versatile as well, given the fact that Stanton is pretty diverse as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to be a fun matchup. We're really looking forward to the opportunity to share the field with those guys again. I have a ton of respect for Coach Stoddard. We communicate pretty regularly. He's served, ironically enough, as a bit of a mentor for me over the last year and a half.
He's a good man.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. I have a ton of respect for him. Coach Peter on the defensive side for them does a great job. They mix it up. They give different looks. They have different fronts. We do like the fact that we feel like we're going to be able to hopefully both run in, throw the football, and get it in different guys' hands. They do a lot of different things offensively in terms of blocking schemes and alignment. And so in no way am I calling them one-dimensional, but they're definitely a team that likes to run the football. They do it in a number of different ways. So you're going to see two kind of differing styles. But in both of those styles, yeah, there's a lot of versatility within it. It's not going to be the lining up and running the same thing over and over again.
Coach, we appreciate your time. Good luck, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Best wishes, Coach.
Hey, awesome. Thanks, guys.
That's Andrew Kuta, head coach of Sandy Creek. We'll be back with Brian Christopherson coming up next.
We will be back.
Guys, I said, you guys are fairly big kids. I know 17's not a big kid, but he's a tough kid. I mean, you got being a receiver, you'd say, go long touches, go to the. And this past week, it was our best perimeter blocking of the season. I'm very happy with those guys, and they're proud of it, because they worked hard on it for 2 weeks. Those guys, and they're proud of it,
Christopherson.
I was like, guys, I said, you guys are fairly big kids. I know 17's not a big kid.
Christopherson.
I was like, guys, I said, you guys are happy with those guys, and they're proud of it, because they worked hard on it for 2 weeks.
We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Here is Husker 24/7 senior writer, Brian Christopherson.
Yeah, you got guys walking into Ace Hardware without their shirts on.
Brian Christopherson.
We got a pretty good sewing circle in this state.
Brian Christopherson.
To me, it's like crunch time, baby.
Here is Brian Christopherson.
I was like, guys, I said, you guys are fairly big kids. You know, I know 17's not a big kid, but he's a tough kid. But there's good sized kids out there. You know, I mean 16, 18, 4. I mean these guys, you know, 29. These guys are big bodies. I'm like, why are you not blocking worth the crap on the perimeter? I mean, it's embarrassing. I mean, you got being a receiver, you think, the one touches, throw me the ball. First thing I said to him, if you don't start blocking out there, then you're not going to get the ball thrown to you. And this past week, it was our best perimeter blocking of the season. I was very happy with those guys, and they're proud of it, you know, because they worked hard on it for 2 weeks.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, joined now by our friend Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. BC, what's going on, buddy?
Not a lot. Things are good, going well. How are you guys?
B-Sizzle, we're good. What do you mean not a lot? Like we had
feels like there's a lot going on.
We
BC.
had Los Angeles. We had to share responsibilities of coaching versus player accountability. We had a guy take the podium. Like, what do you mean not a lot?
Yeah, I just had to listen to it, type it out fast, and drink a lot of coffee though. So that's how my life is. But yeah, there is a lot going on with Husker football. I thought you were asking about me though. I thought you guys actually cared about me.
I do. I listen. BC, you know you're going to be one of the first people I come say hello to on Saturday, man. I care. Are you going to be sitting in your usual order again?
Yeah, we have we have assigned seats up there.
Yeah, but it's the 3 of you. So, like, if you wanted a different view, you could say, "Hey, can I go right chair this week?"
I don't know. Keith Mann might just wander over there and say, "You're out of here, buddy."
Why do you always want to look at Shafe through your left eye? Maybe you want to look at him through your right eye.
I don't know. I'll have to ask those guys if we want to switch it up at some point.
Yeah, do something different and get us a dub.
Yeah, just sit in Brunson.
So this is your guys' fault because you haven't moved?
It is their fault. It is totally their fault.
Possibly. Yeah.
I mean,
I should.
You know how we are, BC. We want a pound of flesh. It's got to be somebody's fault.
Yeah, I mean, I know Coach Rule said it's not a curse or anything, but like we better check all our boxes just in case.
Yeah, I've been sitting in the same seat and I haven't used deodorant for 2 months, so there we are. It's my fault. I'll use.
Are you coaching in Syracuse or what?
I don't know how the deodorant's related to that, BC.
We need to ask Matt Rule about that, by the way, because that's his guy. Like, what's he think of that? Like, not taking a shower during a losing skid.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He said I don't deserve soap. I had to. Man, I almost ran to the sink for a second.
Meanwhile, DB showered 18 times since he heard that press conference.
My skin is a little dry. BC, I'm curious because you're always so stinking even-keeled. So it's interesting. Did you leave Los Angeles and think, man, these players got to play better? Because that doesn't seem like your style. But there were a lot of plays left out there on Saturday.
Yeah, I left there thinking of all the one-on-ones that were won by USC, basically. And really, you could find examples on each side of the ball. Dana Holgorsen cited a few with the running game. I think there's a couple plays Dylan would definitely like back that people probably have dissected already on your show for the last few days. But then on defense, it's like guys have been saying, it wasn't like, except for the one miscommunication, guys were just wildly beat or out of place. But it's just like, come on, get that ball. Like that second touchdown should have been a pick. I felt they gave him 2 gifts, Maeva on the first touchdown drive. And that was probably my biggest disappointment, Damon, was that game was literally in their grasp and they just let it go through it. And they also let a young quarterback really off the hook. He gave them an opportunity, honestly, for 3 or 4 picks in that game.
He had 6 interception-worthy bowls.
Yeah, I probably downplayed it. It was very much
4 of them were in the first
game.
3 drives.
And they scored on 2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nebraska could have thrown a knockout punch. Nebraska could have thrown a knockout punch early.
You know the one we're kind of – so there's 2 things we're kind of sleeping on, BC. One, Buddha Wright may have had the second easiest one on the little check down where he threw it behind him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Buddha was kind of worried about he's in man-to-man.
Yeah, you want to make sure you got the tackle.
So, and it's hard in man because man-to-man isn't for picks normally. Zone is. But there's that one. And then Bear not scoring off that scoop and score, I felt like we're pretty understated.
Yes, that's a good point. I thought so too when it happened, and I only got to watch it back one other time, but live I thought, couldn't a Bear got in on that?
Yeah.
And you know, when your offense has especially been kind of stumbling around in the red zone, you just gotta take advantage of those plays to the fullest. So yeah, it goes all around, and I guess it's the beauty in a way of sports, is that everybody after a win or a loss can look at themselves and find something. If I had done this a little bit better in this matchup, my team maybe gets over the top. And I think everybody over there probably can do that on each side of the ball. So it's not any pointing the fingers or anything, but it definitely is a game where you walked out of there thinking, you know, another missed opportunity for Nebraska. And it wasn't just because USC had overwhelming talent or anything like that. Nebraska was there. They just didn't make the play when they were there. And that feels like why they're 5-5. I mean, this could easily be a 7-win team or something like that if more one-on-ones had been made. And I remember a quote Matt Rule said talking about his coordinators, even when Sat was in that seat. He said, the job of the coordinators, I want them at this level, you're going to have to settle for one-on-one matchups. That's good. Like, if you get the one-on-one, that's where your player has to go win it, and that's what Nebraska did not do on Saturday.
BC, I'm curious what you thought of the talent there, because you brought that up with USC, where it didn't look to be overwhelmingly more than what Nebraska has, but that is objectively a team with a lot of talent. I don't want to speak for you, but the way that comes off to me is that you don't tend to think that talent is the issue for Nebraska right now.
Not really. I mean, I didn't watch that game and think like Nebraska can't hang with these guys at this spot or that spot. I felt like they were there all game long, and especially in the trenches, probably had more to go on than USC. Thought the O-line played pretty well, as has been said by all the coaches. For the most part, I was encouraged, that they did get the running game going in the third quarter, where you're averaging almost 8 per carry, I think, on the first 8 rushes. So there's a lot of good stuff. But yeah, to what you're saying, Ravi, I don't think this is a deal where we're just saying, oh, you got to upgrade here and there. It's just guys they got to come through in those clutch moments. These games, we're in the mini NFL now, where these things are going to come down to 4 to 6 plays, that can swing a game dramatically. And maybe it is Mekhi Bear running in that fumble, maybe that tips it Nebraska's way, or Dylan recognizing Jamal Banks on that third down when he popped open. It's all those things where you're just that one play where it feeds the guy next to you to the next play and all that stuff. So I thought that was a bigger deal than the talent. Yes.
Hey, so BC, when you're kind of watching that game unfold, and I checked stat broadcasts about 3/4 of the way through the third quarter, I'm like, man, how did Nebraska pull back even in terms of time of possession and some other things that I typically don't care about? Like, time of possession is way down there. But I only looked because offensively running the ball, it seemed like Nebraska had kind of re-seized control. Was there ever any point in that game where you thought, well, Nebraska could win this? Because it didn't feel like that early on.
Yeah, I told Brunt at halftime up in the box, I thought Nebraska was going to win, and that goes against it goes against like 7 or 8 years of watching Husker football from that position, because you wouldn't necessarily believe that a good outcome is coming. But I thought, you know what, they're tied. I think USC's in their heads a little bit too much, and that's why I think it's to our first 2 questions here, that's why it's critical when you don't get in the end zone somehow, some way on one of those plays when you did have such a promising third quarter. Because let's see what USC does with that if they're playing from behind. If it's 24-21 Nebraska going into the final frame, what does that look like with the young quarterback and all their one-score losses? And so Nebraska couldn't quite get over the top once USC got that 21-17 lead, again, where they put that complete pressure on USC. that I don't know if they would have responded well to. But I was encouraged, I guess, throughout about Holgorsen's, like, the rhythm and what I was seeing out of the offense. I know they missed plays and they left yards out there, but I just liked how the plays were coming in, and I felt like there was a little more like everybody knows what they're doing and where they're going here. And like there was a play on Nebraska's first drive of the second half where the protection was great. Dylan hits Banks for about 15 yards.
Oh,
Actually,
the little look in. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the drive actually that tied the game at 14. And it was just a standard play, but it was just done really well. It was crisp. The protection was good. The throw was good. The route was good. And I thought to myself, we haven't seen that. Even that, it feels like in a month. Like just a nice, like, here's a throw. It's on timing and everything looks like it's supposed to. And I feel like if they can just build on that, the solid stuff, it doesn't have to be this extraordinary, Herculean type thing. It's just doing that solid stuff well with the drumbeat of consistency. I think they can do really good things in this offense. So that's the part, guys, I did leave encouraged about. Is I know the yards and the numbers didn't look spectacular, but I just felt like way better about the procedure, the operating procedure of the offense and their rhythm.
All right. Now, you, per usual, just out of respect, you always have the green light to check me. But sometimes I feel like I want to hear what I think. So, but it seems like, because I've been saying this for about a month, since Indiana, somebody asked me if Coach Rule was too nice. And I said, I don't think he's too nice. I think he can go either way. He can be really cutthroat if that's the environment he's working in, or he could do it this way because I think that's ultimately what he wants to do, right? He wants to build it slow. He wants to build it steady. He wants to do it the right way. Like, I think that's at the core who he is. And when I listened to Coach Holgorsen yesterday, I'm like, that's it. We've got it. He finally has, like, the alter ego, right? Where I felt like Coach Holgorsen said all the things that Coach Rule would say to me, like if we were out in the parking lot having a ginger ale. You know what I mean? Did you – but he can't say that as the CEO. Did you feel like that?
Yeah, he can't say that publicly. I do think I don't think he's afraid to let guys know and get.
That's totally not what I'm just saying. That's just too finite in week 11 for a coach to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Matt Rule has spoken about, like, you know how hard it is to get up here. I'm not going to point a finger at this or that. Like, you like.
And he had a guy that did.
Yeah, and I think it's useful. It was actually cathartic for the fan base a little bit because there's some stuff they've been saying or thinking, and it's like, oh, this guy's saying it now, and it's, and he's wearing the logo. So,
I do feel like the fans got their pound of flesh yesterday.
Yeah, they did. But, the thing about what Dana said, like, for instance, the line about these are big kids, these are big kids, and we're not, you're not blocking worth of crap. The delivery was great, too. It was very, like, Midwestern, and the whole thing was just beautiful.
Midwestern.
But there's a two-parter to that, and there was a point being made that's what was said when he got here. Those kids work really hard, those big kids. Worked really hard for 2 weeks, and they were much better at blocking on the perimeter in that game than they had been in other cases. I'm sure there are misses here and there, but you saw on, like, the Bonner first down run, that was Jamal Banks as well as I've seen him block all season. Like, the job he did to help him get like 13 yards there. So one of the examples where he was very to the point was also combined with, but these guys worked hard and they're proud of it and they got something done off of that. And now you hope, like with the other points he's making, or, like the finding the holes with the running backs, and maybe it was a little bit better in the third quarter with that there's a step in this next week or two there too. So even though there was some stuff that was critical or point blank it also hopefully is stuff that connects because it did in one case, and hopefully in these other cases it does as well.
BC, there was another thing that Dana Holgorsen said yesterday that has gotten quite a bit of attention. Has to do with, I believe, what people are now calling Dana's secret weapon in terms of the player that he found, as if he was hidden away in some closet somewhere. Do you have, I mean, let's just guess because it's fun. Do you have an idea of who you think that might be?
Not really. No, I don't. What's your guys' guess?
I said
Damon probably knows.
I don't know, to be honest. I said this last night. Full disclosure, I don't know. I said this last night on Big Red Wrap Up. It was the first time that I had a chance to address it. And full disclosure, this is because I want to be right.
I think I know who your guy is.
And I said this at the scrimmage at 1890. I go, man, I was talking to two former players, and I said, I really like the way this player moves. He looks different. He's twitchy. He's sudden. He looks like he has a little bend. Do you know who I was talking about, BC?
I don't.
Makai Nelson.
Oh, you know what? If you want to back up to that guess, when was that? It was a week or two ago. Rule just kind of mentioned him within an answer, like Makai Nelson can play. And it was, I think, right after Holgorsen had showed up.
I'm telling you, Ravi can vouch. And I was talking, and I said it to Sam McCune after the scrimmage. I'm like, and Rashawn was there were a couple guys that were there, and we were talking. I'm like, man, I like this guy. Like he's sneaky sudden. So I want to be right. Because people laugh, an aforementioned player or person that I just discussed, laughed at me that I was dead wrong on that. And it's like week 11, it's like, oh, what happened to your guy, Mr. Running Back, connoisseur, blah, blah. So it's funny, right? It's just former players giving each other crap. But the other guy that I hope, because I spend a lot of time with him.
This is who I thought you were going to say.
Quinn Clark?
Quinn Clark, yeah.
Yeah. But my gut says Makai Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
My heart says Quinn Clark.
So you know why I thought it was Makai Nelson? Is because of what he said about the running backs. He goes,
but he was talking about wide receivers, so he left it pretty open-ended.
He did, but he specifically said when he was talking about running backs, he goes, we got to get some guys in there that can make plays.
But that's he said the thing about the player talking about the wide receivers, though.
Right. I'm just trying to disprove.
Trust me, I want to be right. I want it to be Nelson.
Yeah. I mean, a big thing, too, is whenever Rule has had a conversation about the running backs basically since fall camp, it's been about who's the guy who can make that last player miss. And as you heard Holgorsen.
He gave a visual. My man went, when the hole looks like this.
Yeah, he did that. He did the hand measurement.
He did the Creed with arms wide open,
So, but you know what else I loved, BC? And I had some weird moments, and I told some funny stories. I embarrassed myself in the first hour, so we're not going to revisit that. But there's a lot of running around the house and fist pumping and kind of reflecting on 25 years ago. But I say all that to say, you know what I loved that he said? Wow. The offensive line was pretty good, right? They tell me it's the best game that they've ran block, but I was pretty pleasantly surprised. All year, these guys have been maligned and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I'm not exactly sure we know what we're looking at because we've had time to throw, and there have been several running lanes. I was happy that he, at least momentarily, exonerated the offensive line.
Yeah.
Because what Nebraska's doing with their talent at this level, Donnie shouldn't be maligned. He should be celebrated.
Yeah.
That's my feel.
Is it fair to say, Damon, do you believe so the running backs were under the microscope for missing some holes because of Dana explained it from this last game? Do you feel like that's a representation of the whole season, or has it been a mixed bag?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Ravi, there's a couple of these guys that I give hard times to because they've been hating on the running backs all year, but I mean, they've earned some of the criticism. They definitely earned some of the criticism. That's code for saying Ravi is probably close to being right.
But he struggles with letting those words slip past out of his mouth.
Well, if it was anybody else, it'd be easy. If it was BC, I'd be like, BC, man,
Yeah.
you hit a home run,
You
man.
nailed it.
You nailed it, BC.
But he's got to see me every day,
Yeah.
so.
Ravi kind of limped around his home run. It was like one of those can of corns that the wind blew out.
You mean like the Freddie Freeman one where I'm just kind of like limping around the bases?
But I do like EJ, though. I do like EJ a ton.
Yeah, and that's got to be the way it is, though, with the fresh set of eyes. You bring him in here for feedback. It's no good if he's just not going to give it to you straight. So I think that's another part of that whole press conference yesterday that people liked is, whether they get this rolling or not. It's like I understand why Dana's here. He's spotting some things and he's bringing some actual stuff like to the forefront of like this has just got to be better. It's not going to work if you keep playing at this level. And so I do think that was really good for the fan base. And hopefully you got coaches that take it the right way, build off of it. I've always said, as you guys know, that's a strong fraternity. I think those guys can talk tough to each other when they have to. And most guys have thick skins, and you got to have it right now because you brought Dana in here to shake it up a little bit. And if guys weren't ready for that, it's just they aren't going to survive. So, I mean, they have to be able to adapt.
BC, just about a minute and a half here left with you. But we focused a ton on the offense because of, staff changes and everything like that. But what are you concerned about with the defense in terms of what you've seen? Because it seems like some of the guys on that side aren't executing at the level they need to either.
Yeah, it's hard because, like we said at the top, it's like you're in position a lot of times. It's just you got to have that confidence or whatever it is that it's like I'm going to make this play in this moment to not panic when the ball's in the air, to play it like they probably have for most of their life. And somehow, some way in these last couple of games, that's got to be a signature of this defense again. If you go back to the first 5 games, Nebraska was barely giving up a play of 15 yards ever. I mean, if you went on and looked at the old explosive chart, the teams just didn't have them, and Nebraska was top 3 in the country. And it just feels like that's kind of fallen off a ledge, and there's been all these moments where there's been the breakdowns you wouldn't expect from experienced people. So I don't know that there's an easy answer, but you just hope that, the guys are dialed in, that they can control their emotions on this Saturday, because I do think it's an emotional day. There's a lot going on. I mean, Rule laid it out Monday. In a way, this is an end of an era type of game in some respects, and Nebraska football's as big a part of this as any with the walk-on program. You're going to the 105-man roster in the future, and all these guys are maybe playing their last game as Huskers. You just need everybody, no matter what side of the ball they're on, control their emotions the right way. And I think Nebraska really needs to start strong and play from ahead and sort of have that confident vibe that was missing against UCLA, where you let them off the hook on 3 third downs right away.
That's our guy, Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, appreciate it as always.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, B.
We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where you can come see us on Friday to hang out for our final live breakfast.
Let's have a party.
Let's have a party. And you can win tickets and a parking pass. You heard that right. And a parking pass. That's important. To go to Nebraska versus Wisconsin on Saturday from our friends for Ticket for Less. Make sure you get out here. Get to Eventbrite. Register for the event. Come hang out with us one last time during football season.
And I don't work.
Yeah, you don't have to work that night.
Yeah.
So you'll be like a little peppier. A little, maybe.
Maybe? I don't know about that.
You know about Peppy? Peppy might be a little much.
Peppy might be pushing it.
Like Pepe Le Pew?
Yeah.
Isn't that the old skunk from the Looney Tunes?
Oh, yeah. He just bounced around. It's kind of how you'd move, probably. With the perfume. And a cat that inevitably always somehow ran into paint.
You got to be careful of those cats in paint. You also got to be careful with this cat. It's Andy Kendeigh from KETV. What's up, AK?
Morning, boys.
AK.
Happy hump day.
How we doing?
We're doing good. How you guys doing?
Good. All right, so I figured out how we could all get along better and not be up in arms over yesterday's press conference. So I'm just going to refer to you as like anchor or sports director 1, anchor 2, cam 3. Yeah. To heck with names, AK. Let's just.
I'm co-host 12.
Yeah, like who cares that he used numbers and not names? Like it defeated the whole purpose of what he was trying to say, right? Like as coaches, that's how we're taught. We don't use names. We always use numbers.
Also, that's a very football coach thing to do.
Very, very, very on point right there, because I don't care. And and the true Husker fans were going down and they were translating in their own heads, like, oh yeah, he's talking about, Nair and Banks and and just go down the line. It was actually an interesting test for Husker fans to see if they could actually quickly go through those numbers and get those names correct. I had no problem with it. I just think you can't expect a guy who's been in the office for 10 minutes to know everybody's name right there. I mean, shoot. I thought it was telling. The fact that his approach was more telling than what he was saying about the numbers. I just appreciated it. It was a breath of fresh air listening to that news conference yesterday.
AK, we were at a wedding. I was in Lincoln. This was a handful of years ago. Menor was still playing in Carolina, and Mike Jr. had on a Chad Johnson jersey, like a Bengals jersey at the wedding. And I said to Mac 10,
really?
Yeah, I swear to goodness. I said to Mac 10, really? I said to Mike, I go, how in the world are you going to let him wear a Chad Johnson jersey? And Matt looked at me like I was speaking Portuguese or Italian, I guess, for the writers. But he's like, what? I said, how are you going to let him wear a Chad Johnson jersey? He said, 85? I don't know. Like that that's just who he likes, that guy. And I was like, did you not know? He's like, man, we don't do names. We do numbers. Like when I said, yeah. He looked twice. I had to say it twice. And it's Chad flipping Johnson.
Yeah, pretty famous.
Right?
Right.
He's
right.
like,
you didn't even say Ocho Cinco.
No, he's like, 80.
He probably would have picked it up if you had Ocho Cinco because he go 85.
I don't think they were calling him Ocho Cinco back then yet.
Okay.
No, right. This is pre-Ocho Cinco.
Yeah,
right,
so I get it, right? It's just like, you have a hard enough, and I told Ravi, he asked me the breakdown behind the scenes, and I said, as far as I know, Coach Holgorsen hasn't said a word the first 2 or 3 days, not even at that Tuesday practice. So when he said he was literally just watching film trying to understand, he told the truth. Like, he didn't go in like head first, right? He went he went incrementally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. First of all, was the jersey, the Ocho Cinco jersey, was it home black or
yeah, it was black.
Okay, well, yeah, it was wear white. You can't wear white to a wedding. Yeah, I get it.
I would have gone with.
I just was making fun of him because he let his little kid wear a jersey, and he was so young back then. But he was like, wait till you have to get your kids dressed up. And I was like,
right.
All right, touche.
You're just kind of rolling your
eyes.
Because
I wasn't aware. Shoot, I got to the point where my kids could wear pajamas and I wouldn't care. It was like whatever.
Right. Yeah. Back to your thing. Just to ease into the Holgorsen thing, like I really do get the sense that he went there. He's like, yeah, I'll go watch some film to see what happens, and then he dives in. And he's like, okay, yeah. And then you get the sense that he was like, yeah, I think I can really help. And by a couple days or how many 16-hour days he did spending time looking at film, I think he probably realized that, hey, yeah, I think I can call this. I can do this. And I do think the technology helps him a little bit to advance his development in terms of the knowledge within the offense and the conveying of the messages. I think that certainly helps with the iPads and the in-helmet communication. I certainly do think that helps. But, yeah, it's been pretty remarkable to think in this day and age that you can get a guy in within a matter of, a week and a half and have him call plays from the sidelines of a Big Ten football game. But that's where we're at now. And was it perfect? Of course not. Well, do I expect us to see a jump between the first game and the second game that he calls? I do. No, Wisconsin's obviously a better defense than USC is, but I do think that there's some stuff to build on, whether it's pace and maybe utilizing some different guys that we haven't heard. It was interesting when he brought up the young guy, the quote unquote young guy, the unnamed young guy. Everybody's trying to decipher and read the tea leaves of who that young guy will be on Saturday that will be featured that hasn't been featured most of the year.
Andy, do you have a guess? I mean, you brought it up. We got to get a guess.
All right, we're getting childish with this now. Right. Don't give in.
No
we gotta have a little.
He
fun,
low key put this little thingy McBobber blade thing under the table, and he's like, "Who's he talking about? Make a pick, make a guess." I'm like, "I'm not doing this." And then he waited till BC came on to do the interview, and then he put me on Front Street again, so I had to make a guess.
Yeah, AK, people don't know
Big Red Wrap-Up. Yeah,
I did say I thought it was Makai Nelson.
My only real talent,
Yes,
AK, is putting DB into a corner, so he has to say things he doesn't want to.
Yeah, AK. Nobody, as you know, AK. Nobody puts baby in a corner. Ask Lauren every Sunday morning when she's like, "You're an idiot. How do you do this job?"
What's wrong with this guy?
Hey, full disclosure, again, since I like making fun of myself, you know it's backwards when you look at the camera, right? And so she'll always point the way she wants me to move, and inevitably,
you go the wrong way.
20 years later, I go the wrong way.
Yeah. I don't know how Ramby does it with the green screen.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
Hey, Caitlin Harvey,
she
looked at me and Caitlin goes, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "I don't know. This is hard."
Plus, when you guys go into the studio, it depends. The timing's different. Everything's different. Yeah, it's a unique deal that you guys have. It is people. For people who've never done a green screen or just simply looking at the camera in the camera and seeing it backwards, basically, it's a tough deal. It takes some time. I still don't know how the weather people do it. Like Bill and how Bill Ramby does it for all those years. Obviously, it's an acquired talent, but man, you're pointing this way and you're thinking you're going east and you're going west. So I don't know.
Let me ask you something about, because you know the media up there in Madison. Are you shocked, or was it Fickle's fault that he didn't get one Nebraska question at that in 17 minutes at that presser?
Yeah, I think you could, because Fickle's thing was going on at the same time as Coach Rule's was, and it was a drastically different approach those two took. I thought Fickle was almost combative, and I don't know how many people listened to the whole thing in context. Like when one of the reporters asked him about the defensive line rotation, and Fickle comes back and he said, "Well, can you tell me who's in the defensive line rotation?" And the reporter actually ripped off 6 names that were in, and then he goes, "Well, can you tell me how many snaps they played?" And the reporter ripped off how many snaps. And he goes, "Oh, you did your homework." Trying to be funny. I don't know. That's the type of thing I think, that kind of makes Wisconsin fans roll their eyes. Come on, man, just answer the question. Why is it such a big deal to say who's calling the plays? It's just giving a little fodder. I don't know if it's a competitive advantage that he's keeping things close to the vest, or does he not know? Of course he knows who's going to call the plays. I don't see why it was such a big deal. And by him making it a big deal, it became a big deal, and it took up.
Yeah, maybe that's why they didn't get to the questions, right?
Absolutely. If he would have just came up and said, "Hey, our tight ends coach is going to be doing this, and he's got some experience, but it's going to be a collaborative effort."
I just wanted to know if Wohlers and Pauling are playing. Is that too much to ask?
Well, and I'm sure he wouldn't have answered that either. But by belaboring the point, by being combative, that just extends the news. That just extends the line of questioning. So somebody's going to follow up and ask because reporters didn't get any answers. And I think the reporter contingent that covers Wisconsin football is about a third. Maybe a fourth of what covers Nebraska.
Yeah, they're too busy waiting for Doc to get fired and LaFleur to win the NFC Central Crown.
Yeah,
North.
Exactly.
That's our guy. No That's our guy, AK. We appreciate it, Andy. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, AK.
Thanks, fellas.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
That's it. You know what I mean? You want to get them in that position and believe and trust in your guys to go make the play, because that's what it is, right? When you play in this conference, and when you play the level of athletes, a la SC, Ohio State, I mean, you're going to be in position, right? The techniques, the training, the process during the week, that allows a good player to be in position. And now that's your time to shine. That's all you. You know what I mean? And so it just wasn't a day where we had those one-on-ones go our way, you know. And so like today, you know, we're just emphasizing it even more, things that we want to see. You know what I mean? So when those guys are in that, like today, Malcolm was in a kind of a similar position, you know, with a one-on-one ball. And I think it was Jamal caught the ball, and then we went to Indy, and I told him, I was like, hey, look, you're always right there. I want to see this. I want to be deliberate in practice today. I want to see you actively, you know, slip it and go and punch the ball. I want to see you actively go down and try to rip the ball out as he goes, because you are always in position. But now, you know, we have to finish the right way, you know, and that was the emphasis of coaches. Like, we're right there. We got to go finish the damn thing. So.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. I got to tell you, DB, I had to go over to our friends over at Game Day yesterday.
Yeah.
And
how was our friend Sky?
She was doing good. I had to get. How
was Z?
Z's good.
Yeah.
I didn't get to talk to Chris yesterday.
So I see him Monday, 10:30.
Because I had to go get my new blood work done, which is important, because you got to keep an eye on those things. A lot of times you go to these places online or whatever, you get like your first blood draw done, and then they just prescribe you whatever, and you're off to your own devices. Game Day's trying to make sure they take care of your whole health.
It's a fast 6 weeks.
It was. I feel good, though.
Well, I think people think I'm crazy, so maybe it is working.
Well, to be fair, I've always thought you were a little crazy.
So one of my buddies texted me, Brian, he texted me earlier, and he's like, man, you're nuts. And it's fine.
You do seem energetic lately, which I like.
Sometimes I just tell on myself. If I run around my house or I sit in the dark or I get mad over things that happened 30 years ago, it's perfectly normal.
Oh, do it. I mean, I think a lot of people do more of that type of stuff than they admit to.
Yeah.
I think so.
If I wouldn't try to make a guy miss 5 yards away from him, I would be a much better person today.
You think so?
Yes.
I don't know. You might have learned a good lesson there.
You should have seen when I came out to my vehicle. And I have 18 pounds of oil underneath yesterday. That's
not great.
Oh, you want to do the whole split personality thing?
Yes.
You know what that side's like.
Yeah, I do.
You see me during break.
But make sure you go check out GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Get an appointment scheduled because they care about your whole health. Yeah, they're going to check your testosterone. They're also going to check your PSA to make sure you don't have any of those early indicators of prostate cancer. They're going to do a full blood workup on you to make sure you're living your best life and as healthy as can be.
How's your B12?
My B12's okay. I think they're going to start because they didn't give me one yet. They haven't given me the shot yet because they were going to wait to see how the testosterone kind of took effect. They didn't want to mix results. So they wanted to make sure my T was dialed in first.
Did you tell Sky how I put my own needle in?
Yeah, we had some discussions about you.
Oh,
we might have.
Great. It's fine.
It's all right. No, we're friends. We're all friends here.
Yeah, I just want you to know I can take it.
I know. I'm aware.
I can.
That's the only way you keep showing up to work every day.
Fudge, you see my DMs? It's a lot of haters, man.
I can't imagine your mentions. Mine are bad enough.
It's just a lot of hate.
You guys, and you have way more followers than I do, and you're obviously like, because you're a former player, like you're connected to the program more than I am. I can't imagine what yours are like.
So Severe did a poll last night.
Because mine are a mess.
On like the Coach Holgorsen hire. This was pre-SC.
Yeah.
And he shared the results where you got to like give a grade. This was before SC.
Before we had seen anything.
41% of the poll gave it an F. I'm like,
those people are nuts.
How?
An F?
How?
You realize Dana Holgorsen's like one of the best offensive minds of.
I'm just like, okay, fine. I threw my hands up.
Like if for most of the last 15 years at least.
How did you already give it an F?
Before you see any damn thing.
I'm like, fuck.
For most of the last 15 years, if you had taken a poll nationally of some of the best offensive minds in college football, Dana Holgorsen's going to be on that list more often than not.
I will let you. No, I don't want to give away a free meal. Maybe. What was the number one thing I told you I loved about Coach Holgorsen taking this job?
Remind me.
Shoot, I should have doubled down.
Yeah.
Dang. He's coached in chaos.
Oh, yeah. He's been in chaotic situations.
Very.
Yeah, he's been in some weird spots. Some real weird spots.
West Virginia and Houston were not copacetic.
No, not great.
And he doesn't give a what.
No. And you could tell with his personality.
You could tell just like yesterday.
Like he is who he is.
And we have enough nice. Yeah. We have enough love. We have enough edge. I need some get your ass in gear type stuff.
I do think it's a good match because you do need, I think when you've got a personality like Holgorsen, I do think a personality like Rule.
I'm not kidding you with the alter ego.
Yeah, no, I know. Because I do think you need kind of that edge when you've got a guy that's all about creating a like loving and family culture.
You want the difference?
What's that?
I stood up here a couple weeks ago. I've been telling you guys that, perimeter blocking's been a problem all year. You know what happened yesterday? Man, 16, 18, 29.
Four? Pretty big guys.
Why are you guys blocking like this? That's embarrassing.
They're not blocking worth of crap.
That's the difference.
Yes.
There's only so many hours in the day.
One of my favorites yesterday. Man, for Coach Rule would say, man, we got some backs and we have goes for 20 and we got to come out of the back end of those plays. We're leaving a lot. We're doing what we need to do. Like other teams make those plays. We heard yesterday.
And then his anger translator goes, we need some guys in there that are going to make plays.
Do it.
He goes,
that's a tough tackle, but you got to get through it.
Yeah.
That's 20, probably should have been 80.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Or he can say, man, I'm looking at some of these run plays, and I'm looking at our offensive line and execution, and it's like
run block is pretty good.
It looks like this. And then you look, and there's no back in there. I was like, wow. So, but I mean, we love hearing that, but we have to admit, if we would be so mad at Coach Rule if he said that, we would.
Well,
so keep it 100, like we would.
For a couple of reasons. One, that's really not who he's established himself as.
Nope.
And two, I think it's way different when it's not coming from the head coach.
Yeah.
That matters.
He said, and we'll talk about this with Mitch Sherman at the top of the hour, he said it's normal for position coaches to fall in love with players and not pay attention to anybody else.
Said the quiet part out loud. But he's right. That's why I sit here, because I get this a lot. We sit here, especially as a guy who wasn't a player, didn't coach football, anything like that. A lot of times when I'll critique people, they'll be like, well, you think you know more than the coaches, or, they're seeing it in practice. There must be something there. And it's like, no, but I've been a coach. I get not a football coach, but you do get enamored with certain guys.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have a hard time seeing the big picture, right?
2 weeks ago, again, I'll use myself as a bad example. 2 weeks ago, we're in team.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, the head coach, Pre-Firm Hammer, he comes over. He gets super close to me, right? And this is his way of saying he didn't like my rotation. He goes, so what's the rotation right now with the outside linebackers? Are you comfortable with that? That's code for fix it.
Yeah. Hey, don't bleep and do that again. Right?
So I'm sure at that time I was probably having some blind spots.
Yeah.
Right?
Right? Yeah, because you just sometimes
we're in week
there's
whatever
either confirmation bias or maybe a kid's gotten better and you haven't
all
really
I could
seen
do
it.
was laugh.
Yeah. Because it happens to coaches.
He didn't want to tell me to play somebody else, but he's telling me
play somebody else. Do something else.
Yeah, and I get it.
Yeah, right.
I was like, all right, man. I got
it's really easy to miss the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So I do think, but I do think, and it's, I know people won't believe this. I was in a good cop, bad cop situation when I was coaching in college.
Yeah.
I was the good cop though.
No, not a chance.
I swear to you.
Not a chance.
I'm gonna get Jake on the phone because he played for me.
Not a chance.
I was the good cop. I was the put the arm around the guy. I was the cop that was. I mean, I'm gonna get one of my former players on the phone. I know you won't believe this, but I was.
You just buried me off air 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's true. A lot's changed since then.
Let's get the TK. I don't believe a word of that.
A lot's changed in the last 5 minutes?
Good cop, my rear end.
TK, what's going on, bud? What's up, TK?
TK, I'm getting ready to cut you off if you don't talk. All right. Guess TK's out.
TK didn't want to talk today.
No. I heard him, but not really. TK put himself on mute?
I don't know what happened.
Is he benching? Is he in the middle of a squat?
He's got a bench, get that going.
My favorite yesterday. Man, you guys always call me when I'm in the middle of set. Nah, man, how about if you're on hold, stop lifting?
Also, you called us.
He's a true.
It's all right. We love TK, but we got to dial in on the phone calls a little bit.
You know who I think is the happiest with the press conference yesterday of all my buddies?
Who's that?
Aaron.
Degenerate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because his personality is a lot like Holgorsen's.
I could see that.
Like, he's just going to say it and then be like, maybe that didn't sound right, but it's what I felt. I think people were generally encouraged. And BC hit the nail on the head because I think he felt like fans feel like they're not crazy.
I'll be interested to talk to Mitch here in a minute because I agree with you. I feel the tone is fairly encouraging considering that
it's a lot different than a week ago where we're like, oh man, we just brought a new guy in week 10 and how is this going to work? And we spent the whole offseason talking about new coordinators and we're going to just seamlessly transition with us in 2 weeks. And I mean, you heard it all.
Well, and considering it's on a 4-game losing streak, it feels like a more positive atmosphere than I would expect going into Wisconsin. But our next guy, Mitch Sherman, he seemed like there might be some negative vibes going on around too. So we'll ask him about that. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back with Mitch Sherman here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Yeah, Mitch, it was, I got here and I got into a room and started watching video, and Coach sat in there with me for a couple hours, and a couple of the offensive coaches started coming in. They didn't know what was going on, and we didn't know either. We're just like, we just need to try to figure this out. And I think everybody was professional about it. I think we got really good coaches here. All the offensive coaches are coaching hard. Been very impressed with how they're coaching each one of their positions, including Coach Satterfield coaching the tight ends and giving me information on, what this term means, what that term means. I don't remember the timeline as far as when we made that decision. I know, at first I was like, I don't know if I can learn it to call it, who else can call it? I don't know if I should be. Then I decided, okay, I got it. This probably 3 or 4 days later, I go, okay, I got a handle on it. I think I can do it. He's like, do it.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by our friend Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Mitch, what's going on, man?
What's up, guys? Did you play that clip just because he said my name and not the names of any of his players? You didn't call me by my jersey number, at least.
How would that work? You just be like, the guy from The Athletic.
Yeah, Mitch.
No, we should wear numbers.
It's true. I feel like media should wear numbers now. We need to get those old-timey press hats and put the numbers on the little paper in the brim.
Mitch, I don't know if you have a sixth sense or which button to push, but the fact people were up in arms over that yesterday drove me crazy. He's been here 15 days, right? Can we get the offense down first before
I think it's
worry about the names?
I think it's cool because it shows he doesn't have an emotional attachment to these guys. Yeah. And what better way to show that you're going to see things clear-eyed when you don't even know their names? You're just calling them by their numbers. 18 out there, he looks like a player. Let's get him the ball. Isn't that what you want?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what we saw with Bonner this week, right? You're every time every time as a fan you see him out there as a media member, you're like, that guy seems pretty good. I'd like him to get more than 4 snaps a game. And then Holgorsen comes out here and goes, let's get 16 the ball. I think that works.
I mean, if it's like next August and he's still here and he's calling Dylan Raiola 15, like then we can have a discussion that's a little bit different, but not after one game.
I
That's just like a football guy thing,
actually
though.
would appreciate that though, because that's how I would talk. And Mitch, this is weird. He just teed me up. It's weird, Mitch, but I think like using numbers is a good. It's kind of like Holgorsen's personality to rules. It's a good balance because
it is.
We try to personalize the players so much, and we forget that it's still what it is. Like the number, just using numbers would be like a good counterbalance to how we feel we know everything and we know these guys when we really don't.
That's kind of how I
look at it. That's kind of how I look at it.
It would be hilarious if like Emmett Johnson had a 200-yard game on Saturday, and he's like, I thought 21 really moved well. I mean, it's a tremendous contrast to rule. And sometimes in coaching, like I see this coaching 14-year-olds in baseball, you have to have different personalities. Like you can't, not everybody can be the same. Like, I mean, this works more on a football staff than it does in like youth sports, but like, you have to go about it from a different perspective. And if like everybody's coming at you the same and you're not getting like a diversity in your messages as athletes, like that's not going to be as effective. So that's one thing you're going to get. It's not why you brought him in, but that's one thing that you're definitely going to get as a byproduct of this move is you're going to hear things from a different mindset. Like he is not the same at all as Matt Rule in the way that he's going to go about things. And I appreciate that about him because I think some of the guys on the staff, like, fine, this is good that they follow their leader, and they kind of take on his personality in a lot of ways. At least what we see publicly. Now, obviously not at practice. Like guys are going to be themselves, but there's some of that going on. And with Dana, it's not. There's no show. It's just him. You're going to get who you get, and that's it.
Mitch, I likened it to this, and I said this to Christopherson earlier in a different way. I said, maybe I just want to hear what I want to hear, but I like the fact that Coach Holgorsen, Dana's the way he is, because I actually think it's Coach Rule's alter ego. Like, I think Coach Rule can say something like, perimeter blocking's been a problem all year. Like, I've told you guys that. But he'll preface it by saying he doesn't want to throw anybody under the bus. Coach Holgorsen can say, 18, 29, like 4. These are some big guys. Like, this is embarrassing, right? Same thing, different delivery. But you don't want your head coach talking like that in week 11, finite, right? Because we would crucify him for it. But when it's a new, fresh perspective, like the timing is perfect because the players get it too. It's going to breed competition.
There's definitely some good cop, bad cop going on there, or there will be as this relationship develops, if it does develop. Man, I hope that's not like, we're going to have these Tuesdays with Dana kind of thing that we got the first dose of it yesterday, and we'll get another one, I assume next week on Tuesday, even with the game on Friday. I don't know if they'll mix up the media schedule. Maybe it'll be Monday, who knows, but probably Tuesday. And I don't want that to be it because like, I don't want it to be short-lived, like just from a selfish perspective. Like I think he does bring such a refreshing perspective to this program right now. And it can be beneficial for sure. I don't expect that he's going to be here for years, but like if you can get 1 year with him calling plays, I think that's going to help Nebraska in a lot of ways, and it's going to be entertaining when we get to hear from him on these Tuesdays.
Mitch, we've seen this more in college basketball, a little bit of guys maybe not wanting to be, kind of the part of the new world of what college athletics are. But when you're talking about a guy like Dana Holgorsen, I think about like a Chip Kelly or like a Mo Linguist that goes down on Alabama staff, guys that have been head coaches and go, like maybe, especially with what coordinators make nowadays, like maybe being a coordinator is actually a better gig for some of these guys.
Could be. Yeah. It's all about what they want, what their personalities are. You know, you heard Holgorsen talk about his experience at TCU and how he was there for a couple of weeks at the beginning of the season, and then he went on vacation. Like, okay, so you had a sense of like how that was working for him. He wanted to be in control. Like and there's enough. He has enough control here now that he's excited about doing this job. But how much control does he actually want? Because it's capped as a coordinator. Like you saw the 4th down situation with the fake punt that didn't become a fake punt and the timeout. Like that was a little disjointed for Nebraska on Saturday at USC. And, I think part of the reason is because Dana wanted to do something and Rule wanted to do something. And like, it was their first time together on the sideline on the headset. So they're discussing this and it leads to, a little bit of Nebraska took a timeout that it didn't need to take, didn't want to take in that situation. They get back in that spot this week. I fully expect that it'll be more smooth, but it's about control. And if he wants to be the guy who's calling all the shots, I don't know. I think he probably does. Like down the road in his career, the next chapter, then he's not going to be satisfied just being a coordinator at a high level, despite not having to put up with some of the stuff that head coaches have to put up with now. So that's for him to determine. But it's a good gig for sure. Financially, it's a good gig, and now with coordinators like. You don't have to recruit. Like some guys don't want to recruit. I mean, if Bo Pelini could have done this, he may never have become a head coach. Like I don't have to recruit. I can just sit here as a coordinator and like talk to kids when they come on campus and just do defense all the time. That's appealing, I think, to many in this profession.
Yeah, and I love the fact that I'm a big balance guy. Just having been on different staffs, like I think I just liken it to like a pretty good sandwich that just needs a little extra. And I think for Coach Holgorsen at this stage in his career, this is kind of what I was hearing as he explained how he got here, right? Mitch, I thought about it. I wasn't ready here, and then it wasn't fair, and I had been through this. I had been through a lot. Like, I think a lot like, and Ravi used Kelly earlier, Dana likes a lot of the things that I think he can get at this job, but he doesn't have to bear a lot of the headaches either, right? He can leave that to the CEO, but if he wants to say, "Fudge, why are you paying that guy that? He ain't worth a darn." Like, eat your losses and play the next guy. You know what I mean? Like, he can say that, and it's not his burden to bear. He just gets to be the guy that shares the information. And considering how Coach Rule, how long he's known him and he trusts him, it's just like a different sounding board. Because that's what I wanted for Coach Rule all along was, who is his sounding board? Like, who can hold him in check, right? And I think we kind of finally have a at least the start of a sandwich that just needed a little, good meat, good bread. Something's a little off.
Need that cheese.
Yeah, maybe Dana's a good piece of cheese, right? I don't know, but that's kind of the. I'm not even going to fill you in on the backstory, but Ravi was making fun of me one day because. Basically, he thinks all I need to like something is a good piece of cheese. Like, you could hate the sandwich, it doesn't taste good. Like, people can be mean to you. They'll say one nice thing, and you're like, oh, those are good people.
Yeah, DB will be like, you could hand DB a turd sandwich, but if it's got like a really quality piece of cheese on top, like he'll focus on the cheese and not the turd.
Not entirely true, Mitch. But
I think he's like some spicy sandwich spread, like in the middle there. Maybe not the cheese, but. Like got some jalapeno flavor to it or something like that, some good kick. The thing about Dana, and you talk about like how he can do this as the OC, and like he can come out and be critical when a head coach maybe can't. Well, he did as a head coach, and it contributed, I think, at Houston, I know, to some of the some of the end, like with his act wearing a little thin on some people as their success declined. Like he didn't have a problem necessarily with saying what he thought and being impulsive in these kind of moments. And it's different as a head coach if you do that. There's different ramifications as a head coach if you do that than as an offensive play caller or as a defensive assistant or whatever it is. On the subject of Rule and needing a sounding board and being able to benefit from a sounding board, we heard Rule talk about this in a certain way just last week when he made the announcement that Holgorsen was going to be the OC, and he said it can get lonely as a head coach because there are times, and I think this definitely has happened to him.
That one actually,
in his career, where he wants people to tell him what they think. Like he wants his top lieutenants for sure, and even I think his other assistants and people on his staff to like come to him and like be able to have real conversations. But sometimes there's hesitance. A lot of times, most of the time, there's hesitance on the part of those people to really tell him what they think because he's the boss. And this is beneficial. And this is where he like drew the parallel to Nick Saban. Like he's not trying to say that he's Nick Saban. Like he's not going to turn a bunch of guys into SEC head coaches. I mean, if he does, great. But like that's many. He's Nick Saban won 8 national championships. Like forget that. But Saban, of course, would also have been in a position to be lonely as a head coach because who's going to want to challenge him? So there's a benefit. It was a benefit for him in that position to bring in former head coaches, to bring in a Sark, others like Lane Kiffin, different situation probably than was dynamic than with Sark. Bill O'Brien, like they can actually say things to him that your 25-year-old assistant or your 35-year-old assistant is not going to do. And I think Brule's looking for that with Dana.
So Mitch, I get the sense, and maybe I'm underestimating the desire for control for some of these guys. But as we get further into this world of college football, like it seems like the guys that just really want to coach football, I think are going to gravitate towards these high profile coordinator positions. Cause I look at a guy like, this is probably the most extreme end of it, but I look at a guy like Lincoln Riley. Do you think he really wants to be dealing with all of this other USC stuff? Like, it doesn't really seem like he's having a good time. If somebody just paid him like, hey, we'll give you $4 million to be our offensive coordinator.
Oh, he'd do that every day that ends watch.
That's what, I think there's a lot of those guys in football that kind of ended up in jobs they didn't really want what came with it, if that makes sense. Like maybe I'm underestimating the control freak of it all because that is the real thing too. But I just get this sense that we're going to see a movement that direction.
Yeah, it's attractive to do that if you can make that kind of money. I do think that to get to that position as a head coach, as a successful head coach, you have to have this drive that others who are in their spots, others who haven't been in their shoes might not understand, but like there's a drive, and I wouldn't necessarily understand, to like always be striving for the top of your profession. And some of that is going to hold back. It's not necessarily the money. Some of that is going to hold back candidates that you might see to just become a career-long coordinator from actually doing that, because they're just going to have this competitiveness within them that makes them want to be at the top. And there is a control factor for sure. Absolutely what you're saying. I'm sure there is a subset of coaches out there, and we've seen some of this and probably will see more of it, where coaches just want to call football. I mean, Scott Frost, how about him? He'd be a candidate to be somebody who just wants to call a football game and not have to deal with.
Coach Rule told us, and we laughed. He said, "I used to be a pretty good football coach
before I had to become a head coach." Right? Like you just don't get to coach much football anymore.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, maybe Dana's at that point in his career where that's what he would want. But I just without knowing the details of it, I'd expect that he wants to ultimately lead a program again.
Mitch, you're in it. As media. So I'm curious to get your perspective, because there was probably a little bit of balance here. I was amazed at Wisconsin's presser this week with Fickell that he didn't get one Nebraska question. And I think he was going to get one, and then it kind of got redone because of his initial answer to the OC and why does it matter question. Do you still find yourself critiquing like responsibility to your audience versus kind of what the coach is going through or how he answered the question? Because I would imagine sometimes it can change real time based on the answer that's given, and it wasn't a media agenda thing at all.
Yeah, he sucked the air out of the room for sure with that hostility that he showed when the question was asked about who's going to call plays. Like such an odd response from the head coach at Wisconsin. Like this is you got to have some transparency. Like this is a highly visible sport, a highly visible position you're in. Like you're just wearing your stress on your sleeve when you want to stand up there and say, I'm not going to tell you who the offensive coordinator is. I'm sorry, but it's not where we're at in the way that this sport works. You can try that. You can be a renegade. But Wisconsin is not like Kansas State from like the early 1990s, where you can just be like the antithesis of like what is normal in the sport and get away with it because no, Wisconsin's a big time program. Like Wisconsin's beaten Nebraska 10 consecutive matchups. Like he doesn't need to like withhold who the offensive coordinator is going to be. But whatever, that's his thing. I would guess that the reason that Nebraska didn't come up in the conversation is because everyone was just like immediately shifting gears once Fickell went down that road. Like it wasn't expected. Look at Rule's press conference from the Monday before the USC game. I did not expect that he was going to come out at the beginning of that press conference and say, Dana Holgorsen is now the offensive coordinator. He will call the plays this week. Like I thought it was going to be downplayed. I thought it was going to be like, he's here to help us. He's going to consult, he'll be on the sideline. He's going to be in the meetings. That one, a lot of times like coaches make announcements and we kind of have a sense that they're coming. That one, it caught me off guard. I didn't, there wasn't a lot of chatter out there that like on Monday he was going to walk out and announce that they had a new offensive coordinator. I thought that would be a decision probably for after the season, but it wasn't. So you didn't get a ton of USC talk in that press conference with Rule last week because everyone was so fixated on this big announcement that he made at the beginning.
Mitch, speaking of things that kind of caught me off guard, so you wrote after the game on Saturday, and I hadn't seen this really anywhere else. So I'm just kind of curious your thought process on how you got to this point. Is you brought up with Husker fans and kind of being resigned to their fate, and part of what you brought up there was this buyout number for Coach Rule. I know there's been some frustration with people, but I hadn't heard to this point that being enough of a topic to put a number to it. Like, was that something you were getting from sort of fan reaction? Is that something you kind of went out on your own? I'm just curious how that part came to be.
I wrote it from the perspective of don't even think about it. Like, I think there's been this cyclical nature of Nebraska football where when things get stagnant. We saw it with Callahan, you saw it with Riley, you saw it with Frost. With Bo, it was different because it went 7 years. But there's this cyclical nature in Nebraska football to just think, all right, when things start to like seem that they're turning in a direction where you don't see progress, like, all right, let's talk about how they're going to blow this coach out of town. And my suggestion there with bringing up that number is it's not happening. Like, don't even think about it. Like, you're not going down this road again. You've tried it 3 times. It hasn't necessarily worked, and that's not where Nebraska's headed in this conversation. And this is why it's different. Like, there are multiple reasons why it's different this time around, in part because, like, you don't want to try to continue to do the same thing and expect different results. But it's also different because the stakes are higher and the money's bigger. And, none of those guys were owed $62 million after 2 seasons. Like, Trev Albert structured this contract so that Nebraska was in this for the long haul with Matt Rule. And just because he's 5-5 in year 2, that doesn't change the conversation. Like, you're gonna have to figure out a way to make this work. So that's why I brought it up.
Mitch, of these last 2 DMs that I got, and I like both of them for different reasons, which one do you think is going to be more of a is more pertinent as we get ready to take on Wisconsin? From my man Jay Nebby, he said, like the majority of Husker fans, I loved DH's presser yesterday, but I can't help to think if Sat said those same things 4 weeks ago, Husker fans would have crucified him for sure. That's on the heels of a different perspective, but similar. When was the last time Nebraska had 2 coaches in the offseason that wouldn't shock you if they were head coaches? Are those interrelated? Are they separate things? Was one a catalyst for the other? Which one do you think is kind of more how you feel in the moment?
Well, I hadn't given a lot of thought to the fact yet that they could have 2 head coaches or 2 assistants, 2 coordinators in the offseason who might become head coaches.
Not that they will, but would
they could.
radar. Yeah,
It could. That's correct. Like either one of those names could come up for if a head coach opening emerged today, and Dana Holgorsen's name or Tony White's name was attached to it, you would say, yeah, okay, like that's. I expect to hear that name on a list. Like it's something where you're just going to sit around, and when you start throwing candidates out there, they could come up. So that's just based in reality. It's not shocking at all to think about. Like it's expected. And Nebraska has not been in a position at any point in the last 25 years where that is the case. You may have to go back to like some Osborne stuff where like, okay, you could see Frank Solich and Charlie McBride coming up in conversations as potential head coaches if there were openings. It's been a long time.
In the same vein, is it the fresh perspective that allows Coach Holgorsen to say something that Coach Satterfield couldn't?
They're different. They have different personalities. It would have been very much out of character to hear Sat go down that road. Like he didn't do that. And Dana's a different personality. Like he's going to say, there's plenty of things that one of them could say that the other one, if the other one said it, it would raise your eyebrows because they're not alike in the way that they approach this stuff.
That's our guy, Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Mitch, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Mitch.
All right. Thanks, guys.
We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place.
Are you trying to get up there?
In the Hey, you mind if I do this? Is that all right?
Are you trying to get up over there?
No, is that cool? I'm just trying to make sure we all have paychecks. Is that cool?
Yes, bro. It's cool.
I appreciate that. Time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Make sure you get out to the casinos in Lincoln or Omaha. You can go to warhorsecasino.com to find all their promotions and a full list of house rules and conditions. Before we get to the thing that I want you to play some little mini bets on.
Mini?
Yeah, I don't know if
M-A-N-Y or M-I?
M-I-N-I.
Mouse.
Oh, okay. I was M-I-N-N-I. Okay. I was like, that's not how you spell mini, bro. No, M-I.
Now you're dropping bro too, huh? This a bro thing?
N-I.
This a bro thing?
Like mini golf.
Like what's the hip thing to say?
It's not hip.
It's bruh.
That's worse. Knock it off. God, you guys.
Let's get to TK real quick. See if he's talking to us this time. TK.
Good morning. I can hear you.
There we go. What do we got?
What do you want, TK? Are you fresh off a pump?
No, that was way earlier this morning. I'm wondering, do you eat breakfast before you come in?
Me? No.
Yes. Maybe that's why you talk about sandwiches all the time, bro. Eat something before you come in.
Now he's on the bro thing. Hey, so you guys are just you're bound and determined to be on this bro thing?
Well, one jab is good. That's about as many jabs as Mike Tyson got.
I was just hoping to see him throw more punches. TK, what's on your mind, buddy?
So the Potts injury is very concerning to me. How do you guys think that they will fill
Natalie.
The shoes of probably a top? Yeah. Will fill the shoes of probably a top 25 player in the Big Ten.
Well, you better hope maybe you can get a repeat performance from Rimdahl. Alexis Markowski's role is, she's going to have to log some minutes.
Really important now. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot.
Petrie, maybe. Somebody's gonna have to step up.
Okay.
Hey, it wasn't pretty. I think Coat and Grecian, those guys, I think everybody in the facility knew right away that it was not going to be good.
No. To ending on a high note, is Britt Prince, when she's eventually done, going to be drafted in the top 3 of the WNBA draft?
That's a little lofty, but
I don't know.
I will say this.
She can ball.
I will say this about BP. Super, super, super high floor. I'm not sure how high the ceiling is. This is about who she is. She is incredibly ready. But she's already highly skilled. Like, and I'm biased because I listen, I watched her give my daughter's team 40 in middle school. 40. And I think they scored 48 as a team.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. Like, I just seen this for a while. She's way good. She's way good. Top 3, I don't know. I hope so. Shoot. I mean,
how much higher can her physical profile get?
So she can get stronger. She's razor thin.
Right.
But she has an amazing IQ, and her handle is legit. Like, legit.
TK, appreciate the call, bud. No, I mean, it's the high floor versus high ceiling things. Like, that's where you get with drafts, right?
Yeah.
Like, will she end up getting drafted? Incredibly
100%.
likely, right?
Yeah.
Where that ends up in the draft is going to be.
I know one thing she's added to her repertoire already.
What's that?
The mid-range game.
I love a mid-range game.
She was either in high school, she was either getting to the 10 or she was good from like 30.
Yeah.
Her mid-range game is pretty sharp.
Got to fill out that second level scoring.
And she can play ball. She can, as she gets more ball screens with people like Markowski, that's going to be tough.
Let's get to Jake real quick. It seems like he's got a really good point that he needs to bring up here.
Why? Do you know Jake?
Jake, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, Ravi, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you? I've got some evidence here on my side. You didn't believe I was the good cop ever. I have a former player here that would like to vouch for.
Oh, this is the Jake.
This is Jake. Have you met Jake?
I don't know.
This is my guy in Carolina.
Flaky Jake. Have we met? Because he wears your gear a lot.
I think we've met.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wear our gear a lot. I'm technically on staff.
Flaky Jake, are you vouching for Ravi?
Yeah, I got to come to the defense on this one. The fact that he was the good cop.
That absolutely sucks.
I get that it's outside my personality, but it's also in reference to who the head coach was, right? Like, Willie was the heavy hand.
Well, and to be fair, Ravi was usually just annoyed with our inability to produce, and he just wasn't going to say anything unless it was positive.
Now that sounds like the guy that I sit next to. That delivery was classic. I want to do that again, Jake. He said, well, to be fair. That's awesome. Jake, why do you ride with this guy? Because as he and I talked during the break, we both agreed he's tough. Like, I said, Ravi, if you were nice 10 years ago and you're mean now, things are better for you now. Like, I don't understand. He had his arms folded, and I said, don't you really just want to be deep down be a nice guy? And he goes, nah.
So I'm happier now.
I was gonna say it's that inner circle, outer circle thing. He's tightened up the inner circle, and those of us that are in it feel very happy with him.
Hey, who's the new guy?
It doesn't matter.
Jake, I appreciate you coming to his defense, Jake.
Jake, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Jake sounds like a guy I would like.
Oh, you would. You'd love Jake. Jake's terrific.
He seems like a pretty good dude.
He is. He's a terrific
I know you
dude.
think I only like mean people, but I don't.
No, Jake's a really good dude, and he cares
the good
about...
piece of cheese? Is Jake the good piece of cheese?
No, Jake's like the meat of the sandwich.
He's like the whole sandwich?
Yeah, that's a good dude.
Are you sure I would ride with that guy?
100%. Yeah, because he cares about kids.
So I only really know one guy like that.
Yeah.
That is like just
good dude, and you ride with him?
Yeah. And that's Zickman.
You would like Jake. Jake's a good dude.
Like, Brett's the only guy that I know that's like all the way a good dude that I don't have to need the nice piece of cheese.
I mean, don't get me
Everybody else comes with their
Don't get me wrong.
caveats.
Jake will be snarky and sarcastic with the best of them.
Yeah.
So that's probably the stinky cheese. So he's probably like the good piece of meat, but he's got a little stinky cheese on there. That's probably Jake. The substance is good, but there's a little bit of sprinkling on there. They're like, that's a little stinky.
A lot more Vers, Ryans, Tonys, Timos, T-phrases of the world than there are Brett Zickmans. But anyway, bet on it, man. Do you have one? I got a couple winners for you if you want.
So I do want some winners, but I wanted to talk about because we got. Well, go give me your winners first.
No, it's not that easy.
Okay, fine. Well, then I'm going to go a whole different direction.
Fine.
Do you want to give winners, or do you want me to? I want to make you bet on something.
I really only have one.
Okay, who is it?
I have a couple. I know. I changed my mind.
Who do you like?
I like Alabama tonight.
Okay.
-7.
Okay, you like Bama?
And I think they
Roll Tide.
Top 20 matchup. I think they mollywop some folks. And
who else do we like tonight?
Maybe just Bama. I like to keep my winning streak intact.
So that number's up to 8.5. Do you like them at 8.5 still?
Jeez. Didn't it open at like 4.5?
There's been a lot of movement on this one. 8.5 point favorite over Illinois. How's that game on SEC Network? Do better.
And I like Illinois.
I know. Do better, ESPN. SEC Network? Come on, man.
He said do better. I'll give you the freebie.
Okay.
Take Ohio.
Ohio?
Bobcats.
Ooh, big Bobcats guy?
Yeah.
What's the number on that one? Do you have it?
1.5 maybe.
Okay. Ohio 1.5. Are you still
Plus.
Plus 1.5. Excuse me. Are you still riding with Bama at the -8.5?
Yeah, I'd take it. I probably would have taken it up to 8.
That's a little spicy. So buy it down to 8. You want to buy it down to 8?
I'm not was that like no?
Get -120 on it instead of your -110.
Okay, Aaron.
Listen, I'm just learning. We talk to B. Edwards all the time. I'm just learning, He loves to buy a number. B. Edwards loves.
By the way,
B. Edwards,
speaking of our Warhorse bet on it segment,
yeah.
Do you know who was looking for a women's hoops line yesterday?
Who?
TK.
He was that's why he was dialed in last night. He was like, man, he gets that itch sometimes. Like, I got a little action. The action's not cutting my action.
Yeah. Bobcats and the Crimson Tide.
That's Bet on It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Just obviously being in this part of the country, I knew what Nebraska football was all about, and didn't have any ties to it. But I guess probably the closest thing I could say I did was we took a lot of trips to Colorado, and so we would drive right through here. But just all a great deal of respect for the program, the history. The tradition, and it's exciting to be a part of it.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where you can join us on December 3rd for the NEB Preps inaugural award show for football, be hosted by our very own Mike Sauter. There will be awards in all 7 Nebraska high school football classes, and you can be a part of it. Make sure you get to eventbrites.com, register for the event, or go straight to hurrdatsports.com, and you can register there as well. Make sure
nothing
you are
else,
part
people
of it.
appreciate the effort he's put into it.
Oh, it's a ton of work. I mean, it's
the back and forth between
like him and Padilla.
It was incredible.
Yeah,
it's very. I'm just an innocent bystander. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
And they have very different personalities.
Yeah.
So to watch them go back and forth is kind of hilarious.
Which is why I love the dynamic.
Yeah.
Right? Jacob, super pragmatic.
Yeah. Really numbers, analytical.
Yeah, very linear.
Yeah.
Sauter's a big guy.
Yeah.
It's just funny. And Jacob has a look on his face. And by the way, we'll talk to him tomorrow. Hopefully at 8 if we can get him up. Wait, do the Suns play tonight?
Ooh, if the Suns play tonight, we might be in trouble.
I know. I'm a little concerned.
If they've got a late start time, we might be in some trouble.
I want him in the big block hour, though.
Yeah, if we can.
Because I want to do basketball, Nebraska Creighton, and volleyball.
Yeah, so we need the time there.
The Suns tonight. I can't read these schedules to go backwards. What's today, the 20th?
Today is the 20th.
Yeah, they play the Knicks. Shoot.
Late or early?
Man, 9. It's on ESPN, too.
Ooh, yeah, no, he's not going to be up at 8.
I think we can get him. For us, he will.
Yeah, he might go take a nap after that, but maybe.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right.
It's hard to believe we have to plead and beg with an adult to do an 8 o'clock interview when he's CST. Jeez.
Listen, he operates on a different schedule than the rest of us, all right?
Yeah.
There's no ball games on at 8 o'clock in the morning, so he doesn't have to worry about it.
Can I read you something?
Yeah.
Because occasionally I get these good DMs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Greg says, I'm going to read it in its entirety.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is Greg's voice, but I'm going to read it as though Greg is talking. Wondered if we could connect back to the roster limits and, in quotes, cross-contamination. I think I used that word.
Mm-hmm.
And the new blunt, direct OC. It seems to my eyes that the common thread with the last 3 coaching staffs, there has been a consistent praise and appreciation for the senior leadership that has stayed to help save, build culture. I love our seniors, and I want nothing more for them than to overcome this beast. I also appreciate the experience and the need to have those guys in the rooms. if the experience and culture is losing, is it really as valuable, though?
It's a fair question.
Greg is probably not alone in thinking that, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a fair question.
Right.
Because we've talked about this.
Yeah.
We've talked about, hey, like sometimes there's just too much losing DNA, right? I think that's the phrase I've used is too much losing DNA. That's a fair question to ask. Here's where I think we need to separate things out a little bit, right? Because yes, the culture that has been there so far has resulted in more losing than anybody wants, correct?
Yes.
But we're also trying to separate process from results. So if the process is right, at what point does that trump current results? If you believe that process being shown by the older guys will result in more wins when it's adopted by the younger guys. That's what we don't know because we're not there every day. Because we talked about this yesterday too. Because I believe somebody asked, if you've got younger guys, are they getting frustrated? Are they getting to the point where they're like, hey, like these guys keep screwing up. Why aren't they being held accountable? The thing we don't know is what happens Monday through Friday, right? Because those young players, if they see Monday through Friday that their process isn't what's expected, then they understand why they're not playing on Saturday, right? Even if they have moments, right? You can have moments as a young guy where like, oh man, I played really well this day and I made some plays and all this, right? But that's 2 hours of practice. What about your eating habits? What about your study habits? What about your sleep habits? What about your recovery habits, right? Like there is a difference between, yes, this young guy could probably go make more plays on Saturday right now versus if we continue the process the way we believe it needs to be played out, and that is a risk, right? Because you're not getting the results you want right now. But if the process continues to play out and the young guys that we think can make more plays right now also adopt the process, how many more plays will they make once they've done that?
Hey, do you think it would have been easier if Nebraska was just, instead of bad, they were really, really bad?
Yes.
Like if you didn't have some semblance of some good pieces defensively.
If you didn't have a Ty Robinson who you thought was going to go play in the NFL. If you didn't have a Nash Hutmacher you thought was going to go play in the NFL. If you
I was glad Monday that he said
he'd been banged up.
Nash is hurt because I didn't want to jump on Nash. And I said, I don't know if he's
healthy
or not, but he's clearly not the same as he was.
Yeah, it didn't look the same.
It was good to hear him. Because I'm just watching that with my eye, but anyway.
Yeah, so I do think it's easier because that's why I brought up earlier this week that the situations at Temple and Baylor were so dramatically different than this one, right? When he went to Baylor, no one was left. Like literally no one was left at that program. So you don't have this conversation of, well, I've got some good guys.
And it's like my guy sent me the other day in my DMs because I said that the situations, my man Don.
Don
when No, Don B. We go back and forth sometimes. And he said, he goes 5 years ago, because I said Baylor and Nebraska are different, but for different reasons. He said 5 years ago to hiring Matt Rule from 2017, he said Baylor had a record of 39-13 from 12 to 15, which translates to an 82% win rate. That is vastly different than Nebraska's last 10 years.
That's
right. So
not why it's different.
No, I know.
Right.
But his point was, which I like, though, just a different perspective from like, they had one more. Like even Baylor
had one more
than Nebraska.
Yeah. So it's easier. There was more winning culture left at Baylor than there is currently at Nebraska.
Yeah.
And I believe I looked back. You can make this. I mean, Temple had been to more bowl games recently when Matt Rule took over than Nebraska has.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. Like, I know we don't like to hear it, but Nebraska, taking over Nebraska when Matt Rule did.
How about how Dana slid in yesterday? 8 years. It seems kind of incredible at this institution.
How does that happen at a place like this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just low-key kind of rolling the people. But he's not wrong.
He just kept it
He's
100.
not wrong. Like, that's the reason we're so frustrated, right?
He just kept it real.
How does this happen at a place like this? That's why everyone's so mad. How does this happen at a place like this?
Yeah.
A bowl game should not be the goal. It should be the minimum, but we're at a place where it is the goal. And we want to fast forward where it's not the goal anymore. That's why we get so frustrated. But we have to earn the right that it's no longer the goal. Nebraska hasn't earned the right to fast forward past bowl game eligibility.
And I also think, right, like contrary to popular belief, Nebraska does care about winning. So I think they're investing, and having some young guys over for dinners or making sure that they're fully engaged with how you practice, which is, again, other things that
we can't see.
We're not privy to, right? So
the communication, how it's handled.
Like, I think they're cognizant of that.
There's also, is there any benefit of, these guys are going to be chomping at the bit?
Yeah.
Is there benefit to that as a young guy?
I think that's why he keeps them practicing together.
Yeah. Because they're going to be hungry. You want guys that are hungry. And when you're young and maybe you think it's your time already and you don't have it yet, you're going to be hungry. If I had gotten the first full-time radio job I'd applied for, I wouldn't be as hungry as I was when it took several years to get there, right? There's just a difference when you have to bide your time and put in the work and go, okay, this is a thing that I really want to get to. And I think that's the way it is with the young guys right now.
Yeah.
And as long as, I'm making an assumption here, as long as the older guys really are upholding that standard and that process Monday through Friday the way I'm assuming they are.
And I can only go by what Ty said at Big Ten Media Days about the young guys.
Yeah, no,
right?
He's excited about them.
He appeared to be genuinely excited.
So did Ben Scott.
Yeah.
All three of the guys we talked to, Giff, Scott, and Ty, all seemed genuinely excited, not only for the talent of the young guys, but their attitude. And I think that matters a lot when you're dealing with these situations. You have to have the right temperament of young guys to be able to handle the situation they're in right now.
Or a strong enough culture to sustain the transition.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe they've got both. I don't know. It's kind of a wait-and-see situation. But I do think this is one of the places where you have to separate the process from the results. Because the process
for a little while.
Yeah, just for now. I mean basically just for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Because
that's why I liked it. That's why I like the addition of a fresh set of eyes.
Because by next year, when some of these old guys that have put in the 5 and 6 years at Nebraska move on, it's time. It's time for the young guys to be cut loose.
And some of that roster whittling will happen on its own because guys won't be.
You have to.
They just won't vibe with.
They won't vibe
how it's about to go down.
They won't vibe with how it's about to go down. And you can only have 40 fewer guys than they currently have, right? Yeah. So some of that's going to happen naturally. And then you get that thing that we all like about what Dana Holgorsen said, competition. Get some of that competition.
So we can stop relaxing?
It is the comp. I've said this for years. Competition breeds excellence. Yeah. That's what they need.
Yeah.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio tomorrow.